2026 meeting of the Indianola City Council order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Everybody get up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Ring,
Here.
Dolly,
Here.
Armstrong,
Here.
Davis. Here. Sones. Present. Lane.
Here.
Mayor Richardson.
Present. We are now moving into the session called public comment. Indianola has a policy called limited public comment, and these are the rules by which we need to abide. This is the time set aside for comments from the public on a relevant subject pertaining to council action scheduled for today. Please come to the podium and state your name and address. Keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. While officials will take comments into consideration, this time is not intended for discussion or dialogue, and speakers must direct remarks to the council and not others in attendance. The use of obscene and vulgar language, hate speech, racial slurs, slanderous comments, and any other objectively disruptive conduct may be ruled out of order, and the speaker may be removed from the meeting. Mayor has the authority to reduce the time allowed for comment based on the number of individuals signed up to speak. We have currently, I think we have 3 here that are going to speak. And I have a couple of comments from folks that submitted items online as well. So I'll call up Steve Waterman from 707 Robin Glen here in Indianola.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I appreciate the chance to speak with you tonight. My name is Steve Waterman. I'm a resident at the Village. I have been for 4 years. If you're not acquainted with the Village, probably most of you are, that's all that construction that's going on right now. East Street and Robin Glen. I'm here to talk about the HERDA service, but also some additional comments about, in general, transportation for the people of my age. Although these folks are from the Village, I want to make sure that you understand I'm speaking for myself. I'm not representing the Village in any way. I'm speaking for myself. Well, it doesn't have much to do with this particular moment. I was a superintendent of schools for 30 years. I have a lot of respect for what budgets are, the dilemmas there are, and I'm also kind of a political junkie, and I'm following what's happening in Iowa. My sympathies are with you and other city councils and other forms of government right now in the way budgets are. Believe me of that. My experience with HERDA has been very brief. I can drive my car very easily. I have a very valid driver's license. I have minor macular degeneration in one eye, so once every 8 weeks, I have to go and have it taken care of. And so that's when I've used the HERDA service. So I have used the HERDA service and found it to be very good. Now I'm going back to the Village just a minute. I've heard around town and that some people don't quite understand exactly what the Village is. And is that my 3 minutes?
No.
Okay.
It's on the clock.
Anyway, so the Village has places for rehab, but those of us like me that live in apartments and the townhouses, we bought the house. Mm-hmm. We're citizens of this city. And so, that maybe puts a little different perspective than somebody that might say, you live in an apartment. No, not really. It's called an apartment, but we're city residents. All right. So why am I here? Certainly, if you dump more money in HERDA tonight and make this problem easier, of course I'd be happy. But that's not really why I'm here, because I don't think you can do that. I'm here saying, hey, down the road a piece, before the budget comes up again, or maybe during this year, could you form a committee, some kind of a task force or something, working with a HERDA people, with people in town, and see if we can't come up with something that will be of benefit. I have quite a feeling that a number of people that I've talked to outside of our Village, in our Village, feel that's very important. All right, I'll attempt to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Sir, we can't give questions. We just take comment only, so
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Heather Vina, is that Venus Frank?
That's Rick, yes.
Oh,
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you guys for your service. Just to start out, respectfully, I'm also here on the topic of HERDA. I'm the executive director at the Village here in Indianola. And I just wanted to express some concern about the recent HERDA service reductions. Reliable transportation is essential for many community members, both in the working community and, you know, those who just are no longer able to drive and do not have personal transportation. HERDA provides access to medical appointments, grocery stores, social activities, and other necessities that support independence and quality of life. When transportation options are reduced, people can become more isolated and may miss important appointments or services or even work. I encourage the council to explore what has led to these reductions and what steps our community can take to help restore service levels. Transportation is a lifeline for many, not just a convenience. And I do want to point out that I did pull the Warren County Community Health Improvement Plan, which was completed, I believe it was October of 2023. That's usually redone about once every 3 to 5 years from what I see. And two of the three top priorities for the county were, one of them was to improve mental health access, and one of the top points in that Warren County's own assessment was closing treatment gaps and improving access by exploring improved public transportation opportunities in 2024, exploring funding that can support HERDA transportation within Warren County, and discussing that among city and county leaders. The second priority, when that was completed at the end of 2023, was to promote healthy living. And another statement in that does talk about 28% of Warren County residents claiming that they don't have access to a grocery store or healthy food options. So in that assessment, that was completed by Joel Stolte, is that correct? It stated that we wanted to explore improved public transportation opportunities for Warren County, such as funding that can support the increase in HERDA transportation for residents in rural areas to increase access to local grocery stores and food. So in short, the Warren County Community Health Improvement Plan specifically identifies increased public transportation as a strategy for improving access to mental health care and healthcare services. The plan also calls for exploring funding to support HERDA and increasing transportation options so residents of Warren County and Indianola can reach grocery stores and other essential services. The county has already recognized that transportation is a critical component of community health and independence. Reductions in HERDA services move us further away from the goals outlined in our own county health plan. I appreciate the time, listening, and the consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon.
Oh, that would be me, sir.
That would be you.
Good evening.
614 Knoll Drive, right, Norwalk?
614 Knoll Drive, that's Norwalk, Warren County, Iowa. I appear here tonight also to speak about the topic of HERDA. I'm an outside advocate with an inside view, in that I drove for HERDA for 18 months from November 2024 until June 12th, 2026. My resignation was as an immediate result. Drivers who don't have hours don't make money. So I'm happily landed in a private sector job that pays quite a bit more than HERDA. And, you know, I was aware that there were private sector jobs that paid more than HERDA. But I made the sort of agreement with myself that the $15 wage, along with the sense of satisfaction, knowing that as I approach needing mobility, I'm 71, baby boom, we're getting old. All right, so anyway, I made that agreement. And I did a little math and I calculated it. I have worked, 20 weeks, averaging 30 hours a week since the first of the year in service to HERDA. You take that number and you multiply it by $1.50. That's the HERDA wage, the private sector wage. That's the opportunity cost that was in the agreement. That's what I donated to HERDA. All right. In addition to caring, immensely for the people that I served, and the amount of sheer determination that so many of those people overcome muster just to be active in your community. Taking them to Walmart, taking them to Hy-Vee, taking them to Fairway, taking them to Scenic Valley or Hillside. Those are doctors' offices, dentists, people that need to get their taxes done, pay their taxes at the government building across the street. I served all those people, and I served more in Indianola and in Warren County. I think it's a disgrace that this topic is not front and center. I stand here asking you to give it the attention it deserves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've received, we, the council has received 3 online contributions. Jake, did you send those out today? Did you send out, Jackie did? All 3 of them, so all 3 of you, you've read all of them? Okay, I'm gonna list the 3 that, individuals and the basis of their arguments here just for the record. So Scott Laube, I apologize for not pronouncing it properly. About flock cameras, Indianola Police Department's in the process of evaluating contract for flock cameras. Thinks that they should be discontinued but these will all be on file if anybody else wants to look at that. Second one was Faith Manavong, 400 West Boston here in Indianola. Concerned about Kayakota fees, that the money should be sent to the animal clinics in town to cover TNR. I think that's the Whiskers, if I'm not mistaken. But it should be in support of our own city businesses and so that people that struggle to find a way to transport strays to ARL. That was a question. Last one was from Casey Rush at 1808 Apple Drive. Concern is basically the process by which the information for culvers and the items on different types of development, whether or not stormwater has been looked at, ground improvements, certain types of comprehensive planning, whether or not it's been done or not, and I think that'll be addressed a little bit tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So, but again, these are all on file if anybody wants to look at them. So, with that in mind, then I appreciate everyone speaking, and I do appreciate the comments tonight. And thank you very much for those of you in the audience. So, with that said, I want to move on to consent agenda. Jake, I'm going to give you an opportunity to run through that first, if you would, and then we'll see if anybody wants to pull anything from there.
Absolutely. So starting with item D, number 1 is a resolution setting a public hearing for August 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. regarding the vacation of a 30-foot landscape buffer easement in Lot 5 of the Scenic Point. This would be for the forward project that requires the vacation of a landscape buffer. The buffer is no longer needed and development cannot occur on it. Item 2, D2 is a resolution determining the necessity and fixing a date for a public hearing, August 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. on the matter of the adoption of a proposed 2026 amended and restated 1998 citywide urban revitalization plan. This would set the public hearing to adopt the 3-year sliding scale for residential property tax payment that was previously discussed, classifying multi-residential as residential for purposes of tax abatement, and updating the plan in line with state law changes. Item E1, consideration of the approval of a liquor license renewal for Westfield Brewing Company. Current license expires on July 31st. Staff have reviewed the application and inspected the premises. E2, consideration of the approval of liquor license renewal for the Groggy Dog. Current license expires on July 25th. Staff have reviewed the application and inspected the premises. Item E3, consideration of approval of a tobacco permit for Indianola Golf Club. This was added on July 17th. The annual tobacco permit for the Indianola Golf Club came in late due to challenges with the state application system. That's available for your consideration tonight. Item F, resolution authorizing an agreement between Lexipol and the City of Indianola for a police department subscription. Item and benefits were discussed in significant detail at the July 13th study session. The policy subscription aligns with the ESM study recommendations as well as the City Council strategic plan. The FY27 expenses will be covered through salary savings from currently vacant positions, and the ongoing expenses will be incorporated into future budget cycles. Item G, resolution authorizing the purchase of a wing plow from Hawkeye Truck Equipment. The wing plow was included in the FY27 adopted budget, and this purchase does come in about $10,000 under what was budgeted within our current budget. Item H, resolution authorizing an agreement with Wesco for the purchase of streetlights. The streetlight pole replacement was included in the FY27 budget. These 7 streetlights for replacement are located on North Jefferson between Kentucky and Hillcrest IMU Electric would partner with us on the installation of these poles and did also help us navigate the selection process. Item I, resolution authorizing a contract for the fire department services for the 2026 National Balloon Classic. The fire department will provide emergency medical and fire services for this year's event. Item J, resolution authorizing a proposed project agreement with Sarah Systems for the North 6569 lift station generator replacement project. The transfer switch has failed and replacement has been recommended due to the age and lack of available parts to fix it. While this is an unbudgeted expense, the approximate $10,000 cost would fit within the approved budget, being covered by the $30,000 of savings for the Morlock transformer replacement project. We had budgeted $50,000 for that Morlock transformer project. It was came in about $16,000 with that 15% contingency. So we do have funds within the budget to cover this unexpected expense. Item K, resolution authorizing an agreement between the City of Indianola and the Midwest Injection for liquid biosolids disposal and application. Biosolids removal is an annual requirement to maintain the water resource recovery facility. 4 bids were received, and unfortunately, the lowest bidder had to pull their bid due to other commitments. We then went to the second lowest bidder, which was Midwest Injection. The contract with Midwest Injection will be $23,000 over the amount budgeted, which may necessitate a future budget amendment to use reserves to cover the additional expense, depending on how much we actually spend over the course of the year. The contracted amount will be incorporated into future budget cycles and budgeted appropriately. Item L, resolution approving additional schedules A and B to the PSN service agreement between the City of Indianola and Payment Services Network. The amended service agreement will shift credit card transaction fees from the city to the customer, which is in alignment with the discussions during the FY27 budget process. Item M, resolution accepting the Prairie Meadows Community Betterment Grant for the Fire Department. This would accept a $14,000 grant from Prairie Meadows to assist in replacing rope rescue equipment. The city contribution of $1,600 will be covered within existing FY27 budgeted funds. A net neutral budget amendment will come forward in the future to recognize the revenue from the grant as well as the expenses associated with the project. Item N, resolution accepting the project completion of the McVeigh Trail repair project. The McVeigh Trail closed on June 5th for repairs and reopened to the public on June 26th. Snyder and Associates has verified that the project was completed according to the plan specifications. Item O, receive and file the Civil Service Commission's list of certified police officer candidate. There are currently 2 vacant officer positions within the police department. 1 candidate was interviewed and certified to be on the list. Item P, resolution approving salaries. This is primarily updates and alignment with the recently approved collective bargaining agreements with the fire department employees.
Thank you. Are there any items that members of the council wish to pull?
I'd like to pull item F.
Can we pull G too, please?
Which one?
G, sorry.
Okay. Any other item? Take a motion then to approve everything but items F and G. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dalby, second by Lane. Any other comments from anyone? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Sones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item F, resolution authorizing agreement between Lexington and the City of Indianola for the police department subscription. I take a motion in a second, and then we'll have discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, was that Melissa?
Yes.
Made the motion, okay, and Tiffany seconded, okay. Go ahead, Melissa, you got some questions?
Yeah, I understand, and I watched the study session and understand the CPSM study recommended the acquisition of this software to mitigate some risks that we have. My question is, in totality, have we done cost-benefit analysis? And what are we prepared for the future budget impact? I know it's $15,000, but this is a department where the budget has been tight historically, and $15,000 is $15,000. So what are we prepared to give up to pay for this software?
Yeah, and I'll certainly let Chief Hawkins weigh in if you would like to. We've not done a full cost benefit analysis necessarily on the software. And the reason for that is ultimately to rewrite our entire police policy manual book, we would have to have the staff time available to go ahead and write all that as a starting point, which we currently do not have. In addition to the complete rewrite of the policy manual, which would originate with the police department, we would then have to kick that over to legal. We could get an hour's estimate of how long it would take legal to review an entire policy manual. I think your manual is a couple hundred pages, if I'm not mistaken. So we would have a significant investment in the time from a legal perspective at $250 an hour to review that entire manual. And then what that doesn't include is the ongoing updates that are automatically implemented with Lexipol. So anytime there are changes in case law, if there's any changes in state law, those are automatically incorporated in Lexipol. This again would require the staff time and the capacity to stay on top of those as a staff and then consult with legal once again. So this is a one-stop solution that essentially gets us an updated and current policy manual and then would keep that current for the duration going forward. And as far as what would be given up, between cutting 3 clerical positions out of the police department as well as intentionally leaving 1 vacant officer open, I believe the city is being saved about $350,000 annually out of the police department's budget. So in cutting that staff capacity, they have certainly given up quite a bit to work towards getting a balanced budget community-wide. So I commend them for their efforts. So there is significant savings that have already been identified, as well as a couple of other items within the CPSM study that we'll be looking to implement over the next year that will have additional savings for the department as well as the city.
I do acknowledge that they've already given up a lot out of their budget, and so I just want to make sure that anything that we approve doesn't make it so that we're trimming more out of their budget. I want to be really cautious of that. And I do understand that. I just wanted to have that conversation openly about what this is mitigating and what the cost of that is in terms of policy writing and what we don't have today.
Absolutely.
Chief, you have anything else you want to add?
City manager covered it adequately, in my opinion. So unless there's other additional questions, which I'd be happy to answer if you have them.
I noticed Allison's head went down like this when you mentioned having them have to do it, so there you go. So,
I might be biased, but as someone that deals with policies all day, a policy book that size would take months for I mean, you would, yeah. It would take a very long time.
I would also add that, to be fair, and I mentioned this in our study session last week, we do not have policy wonks amongst our staff here. We're not equipped to build a policy manual. That's not our area of expertise. And part of that decision-making process is building a policy manual that is legally defensible and will hold up to scrutiny. And quite simply, we're not masters of jurisprudence. So I think this is in the best interest of the city from even just a strictly a liability standpoint. So well worth the $15,000 investment. And we understand that, times are tight and budgets are tight, but we think this is a fiscally sound decision going forward.
And that's, as we're talking about things that have been cut out of the police department and any budgets, what taxpayers see, I just want to make sure that we're having those conversations so that they understand what risks we've been living with that we want to mitigate so that we aren't fronting further bills in the future.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for the dialogue.
any other questions?
I was just gonna say, I appreciate Melissa's comments. You're good, Rob. Anytime you're gonna add a recurring expense to the budget, it's gonna create some heartache, and I think that's where it's coming from, so I appreciate Councilmember Stone's comments on the heartache that comes with adding 15,000. It might not seem like a lot, but, I mean, we've gotten down to the nitty-gritty, so if we're gonna add it, we have to be prepared to potentially have other conversations, so.
Any other comments? Hearing none, clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Rape?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Stones?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're on item G, resolution authorizing the purchase of wing plow and light truck equipment. Can I get a motion and a second?
Moved. Second.
Motion by Dalby, second by Lane. Discussion.
This will probably be super quick, and I just wanna make sure, I know it was part of the budget, but I just wanted to have, kinda like with someone's just an open discussion. Is this something that like we're replacing, we needed an additional? Do we know what this one's for?
You're up, Caleb.
Sorry, Caleb.
You're fine. What happens when you sit in the back corner?
No, you get called now.
You'd handle it all like you did for chief. This would be a retrofitting on an existing piece of equipment.
Okay.
So we would be removing the belly plow, which we will hold on to and save, and as we purchase new vehicles, we'll be able to install it on new vehicles. So it will save cost in the future with that. We'll have installed a mid-body, so the wing plow you see on like the DOT trucks, that's on the box of the truck. And that will allow us to limit the amount of, as each truck gets a wing plow, we'll cut the amount of time that that truck has to plow on its route.
Gotcha. So because we were able to budget for it, we figured why not get one while we can?
Just one, since it's come under bid, and there's a couple other items that we have brought under bid, or we'll be bringing under bid. There's a possibility, maybe with some leftover funds, we might be able to get a second one, but that's down the line, and when it comes to that point, I'll be talking to you guys again.
Okay.
Caleb, is this, what source of funds for this is road use tax or is this?
Road use tax,
Yeah, so this is gonna be your gas tax you pay.
your gas tax, your
Okay.
license fees.
Yep, okay, thank you.
So just education for me, Caleb, does this make it more efficient as you're plowing?
Yeah, and when it stops snowing, it will become a lot more efficient. So instead of making 4 passes per road, the truck that's got a wing plow on it will be able to do a road in 2 passes.
Okay.
Some of the wider roads, it will be 3 passes, but instead of 6. So it will cut down the amount of time that it takes to plow an area, which will cut until we get a full fleet of them. That person will go and help someone, but it will reduce time overall. Once we get a full fleet, it will reduce the amount of time, overtime, fuel usage.
How many of them do we have now?
This will be our very first one.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
We're a little behind what every other city is with as far as wing plows.
Any other questions for Caleb or anyone else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Caleb. Hearing none, will clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Jones?
Aye.
Lane? Ray?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now's the fun part. Certificate of merit for Nicole Brown.
Hey, Mayor.
Mayor, I think.
We need council action first.
That's a big good idea. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
By Lane, Sones, and, discussion. Hearing
All
none,
in
clerk
favor?
call the roll.
Councilmember Ray?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Jones?
Aye.
Lane?
I just got excited. Come on, Nicole. This is a certificate of merit for Officer Nicole Brown in recognition of your exceptional dedication, leadership, and unwavering commitment. The successful implementation of the Central Square CAD software system. You've upheld the highest standards of professionalism and commitment to the city of Indianola, and your contributions have supported the continued delivery of quality services and programs to our community during a time of transition. I'm going to give you a second to explain what you did, though. Thank you. Go ahead, tell us what you did.
I wasn't prepared to do that.
No, we gotta have a little talk.
So our CAD system and our records management system, we had a different system that we were using, and we're moving over to this new one. I think the transition started almost a year ago. It's been a long time, and then basically what we needed to do is get all of our records into the new system, which is like trying to fit a circle into a square and vice versa. It was a lot of checking and making sure that everything was coming over correctly, and then training everybody, getting everybody used to using the new system, making it work for our needs and the other agencies in the county's needs. So.
My understanding is, and Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but she pretty much took this on her own. Is that pretty much correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to add to what Detective Brown said, because he undersold what she's done for our organization. She came in off of maternity leave in January and immediately took over this project because our office manager also retired in January. So with no prior operational experience with any type of CAD software or mobile systems, she took over the project and led this thing from really its infancy all the way to implementation. And she did it in a 6-month window when the project had already been ongoing for about 6 months prior to her taking it over. And so that is a major accomplishment. She had her user knowledge at the end level, being a patrol officer and a detective, but now she's got the administrative level engineering on that side of the house, building all of the programs, all of the forms that we use, as well as how our mobile system works, how the officers get real-time information in the field. And again, she did that with no prior software or operational knowledge, so she went way outside of her comfort zone for what she does on a day-to-day basis, and really deserves a lot of praise and a lot of credit. This is a multi-agency project. All law enforcement in Warren County, as well as the dispatch center, is using the Central Square platform, as well as some of the fire departments as well. So she is to be commended for the time and the effort and really the dedication to doing something that really truly was not her job. A lot of times you hear people say, hey, that's not my job. She never once said that. She went out and she did everything that we asked, and then she did more. She coordinated all of the training pieces, not just with our staff, but as well as other law enforcement agencies as well as the vendor Central Square. So we couldn't be prouder of Nicole and the efforts that she did. And this is just a great example of the type of employee that we have working for us. So, my hat's off to her, and I'm very grateful for her.
Well, I'm gonna give her the certificate, she can hold it, and we're gonna get a picture of the chief and me. Chief, you wanna stand right beside it? You want this, or you want over here?
How about we move just a little bit?
You want over? Okay.
I'll do my best, 3, 2, 1. One more. Thanks.
Nicole, thank you very much.
I also like to call out, as a new mom, coming back to work and that level of stress, let's just call that out real fast.
All right. Discussion regarding micro mobility devices, and I'm gonna guess, Chief, you're back up on the hot seat.
I feel like I'm living up here right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mayor, members of council, Chief Hawkins, Indianola Police. Got a fancy little slideshow for you tonight. Topic, e-bikes, e-scooters, other micro-mobility devices information. As requested, have a discussion tonight, just kind of give you some informational pieces to this, and hopefully I use the clicker correctly. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So tonight we're going to summarize existing Indianola City Code, summarize Des Moines and some of the metro areas, what they're doing with their codes, because some communities are changing their codes up slightly. We'll review education efforts by the city of Indianola, the information that we've put out to the public regarding e-bikes, scooters, micro mobility devices. I don't want to say that word too often because it trips me up. But then we'll also discuss what my recommendations to council are at this point, and go from there. So key definitions in Chapter 76 of the code. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think the big one is low-speed electric bicycles, 750 watt max motor. Okay, so in Iowa, they're classified under 3 classifications: Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Class 1 is a pedal assist with a throttle as well, which means you have to be pedaling, and then you get the throttle assist as well, up to a max of 20 miles an hour. For Class 2, it's a throttle assist, which means you do not have to be pedaling. But again, it goes just up to 20 miles an hour. But the difference is you're not actually having to physically pedal the bike, right? And then class 3 is a pedal assist up to 28 miles an hour. And you have to be 16 years of age to operate a class 3 electric bicycle. So, think, with that kind of speed, I think the thought process there is, hey, you should have a driver's license, right? You should have some kind of understanding of traffic laws, things of that nature. I mean, I think we can all relate. I mean, most of us, maybe other than Councilmember Lane, remember when we were kids and had bikes. So, but 28
Just to
miles an hour.
clarify, Rob.
I left you out of there.
Yeah, I know,
Mr.
you
Mayor.
did. That was nice. That was a
I left you out
good
of
one,
there.
yeah.
I was gonna talk to you after.
So, last week, Tim Little with ComDev, he made you laugh a couple times. So I thought I had to bring something to the table this time. So sorry.
At my expense, that's okay.
Yeah.
It was nice working with you, Chief.
So those are the distinctions between the 3 low-speed electric bicycles. And then you have other power-driven mobility devices. Think about people with disabilities, electronic personal assistance devices, but they're not considered wheelchairs either. So those are the key definitions in Chapter 76. Rights and rules of the road in Chapter 76. Traffic code applies to all riders, whether it's a bicycle, whether it's an e-bike, whether it's a scooter, those types of things. You're not required to register e-bikes. You must yield to pedestrian, and pedestrian rules apply once you dismount that device. So think about, up on the square and things like that. So responsible riding that we cover in Chapter 76 of our code, and this is covered in many similar ordinances around the metro. Double riding is restricted. The operator shall keep the device under control at all times. No person shall operate it at a speed greater than what is reasonable or prudent. So think about, riding it anywhere in town. If there's a lot of traffic or there's a lot of pedestrians around, you can't just be whizzing through everybody and not being driving or riding with the due regard for the safety of others. So no person, again, shall ride it in a reckless manner. So where e-bikes can operate, they're allowed on streets, bike lanes, and paved trails. They're allowed on sidewalks unless they're posted otherwise. And our ordinance right now, they must walk the devices on the square sidewalk. So they're not supposed to be riding those devices on the square. E-bikes, operation continued. Class 3 e-bikes, again, those are that basically dual pedal throttle assist up to 28 miles an hour. They cannot be operated on a bicycle lane or multi-use path faster than the posted limit on that trail. And if no speed limit is posted, that limit is 20 miles an hour. So even though they can go up to 28 miles an hour, they can't go faster than a posted speed limit. And in any event, if there's no limit posted, that limit's 20 miles an hour. Equipment requirements: front white light, rear red light is visible at 300 feet, 72 hours to correct missing lights if you get a warning. For the bikes, real working pedals, and the motor has to be less than 750 watts. If that motor's over 750 watts, then you're dancing in the description of a motor vehicle, not a bicycle. So, and again, one of the other caveats to that is the real working pedals. So that's one way to identify like a bicycle versus an e-moto, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So right now, for current enforcement and penalties under Chapter 76, which is our city ordinance, no current scheduled fines. The state does have scheduled fines in 321, 234, and 235B for various things, but they're not really applicable to us. officers may and do issue warnings, and we attempt to educate riders. We do that regularly when the situation calls for it. Now, here's one that we do have. We have an optional 5-day impound in lieu of a fine. It's an interesting way that it's written in our city code is the person that we would be impounding their bike actually has the discretion to make this call whether or not we do it or not if you read the code. So I will tell you that we do not have the space or the resources to do this consistently. We would have to take a bike, scooter in, do a property sheet, do a case on it, enter it into evidence, wait 5 days, hope that somebody comes back and gets their bike. And then we'd have to do a property sheet, release it to them, take it out of evidence, close a case out. It's a substantial drain on resources to do this. And that's not to even discuss the lack of space. We have no space to actually store these bikes. And then, on top of that, you get the situation where if somebody comes in and they're like, you damaged my bike, and then we have to go through that. Or worse yet, they decide that they don't want to come back and pick up their bike, and then we're stuck with a scooter or something taking up storage space long-term. So just that whole optional 5-day impound in lieu of a fine, at some point, I would like to see that removed from our city ordinance, if I'm being upfront with this council. So, again, we just don't have the resources or the space to do this consistently. So I'm going to cover low-speed bicycles just a little bit more and e-motos, just so you guys understand the difference in case you don't. If you already know this, I apologize in advance. Low-speed e-bikes, they have pedals. They shall have a label on it showing which class it is, whether it's class 1, 2, or 3. They are all treated as a bicycle under Iowa code. They're not subject to licenses, title, or insurance requirements. They're subject to the same lighting and reflector requirements, and they're allowed on streets, bike lanes, and trails. So that's basically the low-speed e-bikes. Motorized bicycles or e-motos, no pedals. They have no pedals on them. So it's completely throttle engine driven. Limited to one occupant, requires one lighted headlamp, requires an orange triangular safety flag, cannot operate in excess of 39 miles per hour where it's considered a motorcycle. If it operates in excess of 39 miles an hour, it's a motor vehicle. So then it's no longer an e-moto. Requires title, registration with the state, and also requires proof of insurance to operate. Yeah, also have to be 14 and have at least a moped deal.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
the labels showing which class, are those given by the bike shops where you might purchase?
Those are manufacturer labels
Okay,
that are
okay.
applied by the manufacturers.
Thank you.
It should be somewhere on the frame.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk about those a
Guess you can
little
tell I
bit
don't have
more
one.
in a little bit here.
I
So,
think he heard you.
what's that?
He said, can you guess he doesn't have one?
So, e-motos continued, they're subject to all applicable motor vehicle laws. They're only allowed on city streets, and they're not permitted on sidewalks, trails, bike paths, or green spaces. So an important distinction from the e-bikes. So, and then obviously motorcycles, no pedals, they can have more than one occupant, requires licensing, endorsement, title, registration, proof of insurance, all that good stuff. So, any questions on those? I just wanted to so you understood the distinction between them. Okay, so Des Moines area comparisons.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Your bullet about must be 14 and have a moped driver's license. Can you help me understand what is it that you're saying that they need to have this moped driver's license for?
For e-moto.
E-moto, that's anything over 39 miles an hour?
No, that's it can go up to 39 miles an hour. It can't go. It cannot operate in excess of.
Okay.
39 miles an hour. So your class 3 bicycle only goes up to 28 miles an hour. So you've got that 28 miles per hour to 39 range that e-moto can operate in. So, but if you go past 39 miles an hour, it becomes a motorcycle. So then it's subject to a motorcycle license, title, registration, proof of insurance. It has to, and it can't be driven on, bike paths and stuff like that if it's a motorcycle. So.
Just to clarify for anybody else maybe listening though, so far we're talking about motorized bicycles and e-motos, which are two-wheeled vehicles, look like a bicycle, but don't have pedals.
Correct.
Okay. We haven't gotten to scooters yet.
And they have all different size motors, and that's what determines their speed.
Correct.
Thank you, Chief.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood that. Thank you.
So Des Moines metro area comparisons, a lot of the language in most of the ordinances are very similar to ours. Some of the ordinances in the metro have a few more definitions in them, which I like. But e-motorcycles over 750 watts are banned from sidewalks and trails. So some of the other Des Moines areas have scooters, especially scooters, a little bit more defined in their policy than we do. We don't really have that really defined in our policy. But I mean, some of these scooters do have some high-powered motors on them, and they might fall into, getting close to an e-moto type situation, even on a scooter. Some of these things have some pretty impressive wattage motors. So, but I will go to down, I put a bullet down there, similar rules for different types of conveyance makes enforcement cumbersome for officers, because the officers have to try to sit here and try to figure out what class of bike it is, what type of motor that it has, especially on some of these e-motos and things of that nature. So it can be difficult. We've also, in speaking to some law enforcement partners in the metro, they now have people putting stickers, reprinting stickers and putting them on their bikes that are different classes. So putting a class 2 sticker on a class 3 bike and things of that nature. So there's people, where there's a will, there's a way, right? We want to try to deceive and make sure we can operate what we want to operate, where we want to operate it. So again, that just makes it confusing for the officers to try to figure out what these devices are. So, it can be cumbersome for the officers for sure. So, and there's opportunities for mistakes, right? Just like I said earlier, we weren't policy guys. A lot of us aren't mechanics either. We don't know our way around an engine other than put gas in it and change the oil or something. So it can definitely be problematic. So, so street use, a lot of them are limited to less than 25 mile an hour roadways. Heavy emphasis on public education, and I'm going to touch on that here in a minute. So I'm not going to belabor this point, but there's a heavy emphasis on educational purposes in all of these city ordinances that I'm seeing. In Waukee, they have a civil penalty, $25. It's a simple misdemeanor if applicable. In Ankeny, which I did speak to the Ankeny chief last week, he said they've only cited 2 people with a simple misdemeanor for a e-bike or scooter violation. Norwalk has proposed a $50 civil penalty for a first offense, and they've just had a first reading on that policy, so that's not in effect currently. Clive also just passed one in the last couple weeks. They have a $25 civil penalty as well. I did speak with Chief Rayberg today, and he said for that first year, they're not even going to try to even do any municipal infractions. It's all focused on education and mostly in their trail system there in Clive. So again, some of this is repetitive, so I won't spend too much time on it. Ankeny cited 2 parents for allowing unauthorized persons to operate a motor vehicle because they had kids operating things that past the e-moto stage and went to a motorcycle, so they went ahead and cited them for allowing an unauthorized person to operate a motor vehicle. So, which is definitely within our purview if that was the case. We don't need a city ordinance to do that. We can do that with the state charge. So, again, it's really cumbersome, and you know, if we try to pass too many changes, then you know, I'm not sure. I'd like to see some uniform consistency in anything that we do. So, but again, emphasize on education. So I put these up here just so you guys can kind of see enforcement questions that would need to be asked in the field by our officers. You know, does the vehicle have fully operational pedals? So that answer would help determine if it's an e-bike or it's an e-moto or is it a motorcycle. Is that class label present on an e-bike? Under Iowa law, all e-bikes have to have a manufacturer affixed label indicating which class it's in. The vehicle's advertised top-end speed. This is going to require some investigation by the officer to determine the make model. So again, that goes back to that clunky, cumbersome, trying to figure out what they're dealing with in the event that they deal with somebody on one of these devices. What does the type of conveyance require an operator's license? Again, they're going to have to do some investigation. You know, if it's a class 3 e-bike, no, they don't, but they need to be 16 to operate it. So, you know, it's just, again, trying to keep all of that straight. It does get a little overwhelming, I think. Where was the device being operated at? Mopeds and e-motos cannot operate on sidewalks, trails, paths, or bike lanes, as they're considered more of a motor vehicle. So does probable cause exist to initiate a traffic stop? So if they're following the rules of the road on an e-bike, and maybe you're like, oh, that might be a class 3 e-bike and that person looks like they're 12, I still got to have probable cause to initiate a traffic stop. I can't just randomly pick them aside and say, hey, let's talk about this and, you know, make sure that you're 16, all the things, right? So again, consensual encounters may have to be used in order to do that, and officers don't always have time to be able to do that. So again, got to have probable cause to make that contact in the field, even on this kind of stuff. So again, I shared that only so you guys can kind of understand how things happen out on the street. So education awareness through the Ride Safe and Smart campaign. We participate in this campaign following your affirmation of it in April 2026. The Ride Safe and Smart campaign focuses on educational outreach and just raising awareness by safe riding habits and applicable rules. So what I'll say, they have some goals, and we've outlined them. Simplifying complex rules through clear, friendly messaging that people can understand, encouraging safe, predictable behavior for riders, drivers, and pedestrians, reducing conflicts on streets, sidewalks, and multi-use trails. You know, a lot of times people don't understand what the rules are, and so sometimes assumptions are made, and sometimes, you know, when we make assumptions, you know what happens, we're wrong. Supporting enforcement by prioritizing education first, reinforcing the city's commitment to safety, accessibility, and shared public spaces, and reducing near misses and complaints from trail users, drivers, and businesses. So I put this in here, Indianola Ride Safe and Smart. We have a dedicated web page on the city's website for Ride Safe and Smart, outline safe riding for city streets, sidewalks, and trails. We've created informational flyers and distributed those for community distribution and posted safety reminders at trailheads. We partnered with our SROs to deliver important safety information directly to Indianola Community School District students. Produced social media graphics and videos, participated in public events for community involvement, namely the Mayor's Youth Council Bike and Scooter Fest. And we will also be back in the schools in September with the Mayor's Youth Council addressing this issue as well, once school gets back in session with their new members on the Mayor's Youth Council. We're partnered with local media to help amplify that safety messaging and campaign awareness, as well as we've continued collaboration with our Metro law enforcement partners to share resources, align efforts. I want to give a shout out to my fellow chiefs in the Metro area because I've talked to about every one of them on this topic. So this is a slide. This was a graphic that was produced by communication staff. Where can I ride? This is just an example. I wanted to put it up here to demonstrate what's available out there for people to look at and see. And it's very specific. I mean, we're talking about cars and trucks, golf carts, bikes, electric scooters, motorcycles, ATVs, all of that thing. So, and this has been disseminated. Did I go the wrong way? Okay, yeah, no. So we also disseminated the 6 simple ways to ride safe and smart. This material is used by IPD and it's also posted at city trailheads as well. It's also available on the city's website as well. There's also a QR code up there people can scan to get more information if they want to. And then again, I just mentioned that we participated in the Mayor's Youth Council Bike and Scooter Fest. And I want to point out that photo looks completely staged, but I assure you it's not. That was an action photo right there. So it's catalog worthy. So here's my recommendations right now. We continue to utilize education awareness programs like Ride Safe and Smart to inform the public, create awareness of this issue. Education is the foundation of this issue. It's the more you know, right? So if we can get parents to get this information, reinforce it with their kids, and make sure that they're knowing what they're talking about when they're talking to their kids, that's going to be helpful. I think at some point, maybe update existing city ordinance, chapter 76 with definition language like other Des Moines metro cities. I just threw an example. Norwalk has a section requiring brakes on those devices to come to a complete stop. So just like that, I just want to throw an example so you understood what I was talking about. But for me, the big one right here, besides obviously the education piece, which I feel is the most important component of this, my recommendation is to wait on enforcement results from other Des Moines metro cities before we change city code. Because there's not enough body of work. There's not enough data for us to even suggest that something that someone else is doing is going to work. I think it would be short-sighted of us to just go ahead and move to something without more data. We've just had several communities that have changed their code. And I say let's wait and see how successful that is, knowing that our officers are going to continue to do the same things that we have been doing. When we identify a violation, we handle the violation and educate to the best of our ability, continue our education awareness. Any change that we have should promote accountability, not only for the young person riding the device, but also for our parents as well. And the big thing for me is it needs to be enforceable, right? And right now, there's just not enough out there to suggest that anything's enforceable. And that's why I recommend to council that we would wait on any type of change to enforcement penalties in our ordinance. So, and my thinking here is we need some more legislation from the state for more uniform enforcement options for this topic, because I don't think this is a topic that's probably going to go away anytime soon. I think these e-bikes, scooters, all of these other micro mobility devices, I said it really slow so I didn't mess it up, they're here to stay. So, hopefully we can get a push through the law enforcement and up through the state legislators to maybe change some things on that end to help us out. So that is the end of my presentation.
I would just
I
add a
would
couple
welcome any
things.
questions you might have.
Chief, it's not only in the Des Moines metro area. I'm participating in a Iowa Association of Mayors Zoom meeting tomorrow. One of the topics will be the issues with e-bikes and scooters. There's about 3 topics on the agenda, but this is continually mentioned almost every meeting I go to, whether it's MyLog, whether it's MPO, whether it's some of the other groups that are around the metro area, that it's a huge issue. One of the things that we continually talk about, and you've mentioned it here to a certain extent too, it's the education piece has got to be done, because you have to, if you're going to charge somebody or write a ticket or do whatever you're going to do, you've got to be able to have evidence in a court of law that will uphold that if it ever gets to that point. The problem we have, and this is what I keep telling some of our citizens too, the problem is that we don't have the time or money to put up cameras. In fact, we just had a thing tonight about cameras, and they don't want cameras on things. So if you don't have some kind of evidence showing what people are doing, you can't really charge them with anything. If a police officer has to see what's happening, if somebody breaks the law or breaks one of the ordinances that we have here, to be able to write a ticket. And so it has to be education, because, and we all have to be good at that. I've actually stopped a couple of kids that have actually worn helmets, stopped at a stop sign, and I'm at the opposite stop sign. I'll roll down my window and say, thank you for obeying the rules or wearing a helmet or whatever the case is, simply because we need to reinforce the good behavior too. So I could be wrong in all those things, but I just think that we have to continue the education side of things. I think you're right about waiting on some of these rules. The only concern I have is the scooters. Yesterday, well, there's 2 things, and one thing that happened yesterday. We also, as I was coming up to City Hall yesterday afternoon to pick up some stuff, there were 2 kids on 65, 69. It was late in the day. I think everybody must have been watching the soccer game or something, but there was hardly any traffic, and there were 2 kids bouncing off of the sidewalk out into Highway 65, 69. Ended up going to Dairy Queen, which is fine, but I followed them for about 2.5 blocks. They were going over 30 miles an hour on those scooters, so it was obviously a situation where it wasn't safe. They did have helmets on, and they did stop a stoplight, but other than that, they were bouncing in off the sidewalk and out in the street. So people have to understand too that if we're looking at a priority system of what you guys on a daily basis have to deal with, to be honest with you, it's important, but it's not going to be at the top of the list on some of these things either. You're not going to go out and say all day, we're going to take all of our officers and go out and look for people that are violating, our scooter and bike safety laws here. So we've got to understand that too as a community.
I think the term you may be looking for, Mr. Mayor, is it takes a village.
Yes,
exactly. And, so it is difficult. And again, we talked about those scooters. Some of those scooters can get down the road, but again, sometimes we may only have 2 officers on duty.
Yeah.
Because then there's going to be a lot. Right now, summer's out, school's out, and, there's a lot of kids that are out on these devices, and we probably aren't going to have the resources to stop every violation like you observed
Right.
yesterday, which is unfortunate. We'd love to catch every single one of those.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's a lot of people who run stop signs in motor vehicles too, and they have a driver's license, and they're adults, and they make those decisions every day. And so we're allowing some kids that, are 9, 10, 11, 12 operating these devices, and we expect them to obey traffic laws. And I think that's a mighty big expectation on our end, if that's the case.
As I told you, I've had one gentleman that he and his wife walk on a daily basis, and they saw a young man run a stop sign at 9th Street in Hillcrest. And he actually got the young man stopped, and he told the young man, he says, didn't you see that stop sign there? You're supposed to stop. And he goes, why should I stop? My mom never stops at stop signs. So I mean, it's just one of those things, exactly to your point. So that's sometimes what you're up against.
I hear you, Steve, and first of all, thank you for putting all this together. It's very helpful, very educational. I didn't know there were so many categories of them. I see them all the time, but I didn't know all the differences, so thank you for this.
Welcome.
Great conversation. My concern is, people who run stop signs and put people in danger, we already have something in place to take care of that if we need to, right? You can pull them over and give them a ticket if you need to. In this case, We don't. You can stop and have a conversation and continue to have conversations, and that's all you can do, right?
Correct.
You can impound them, but like you said, we don't have space for that. We don't have the staff time to log the evidence and store it and all that jazz. We've already had at least one child get hit by a vehicle. Are we going to wait until it's more severe than that before we begin to take action? This has been a topic all summer long, and I don't think it's gonna stop. Communication and awareness is great, but it's not reaching the 10-year-olds on the scooters and e-bikes.
Well, that's what we're trying to Chief's point, the Mayor's Youth Council has talked to Chief Hawkins, and they're gonna go in with the SROs in September. Well, they're having a meeting in September. The intent is then for them to also get into the elementary schools and into the middle schools and continue the education process. And I get your point, and your point is well taken. I think, Chief, and correct me if I'm wrong, but am I incorrect in saying here that if one of the officers does see somebody run a stop sign that they believe is old enough to ride something of the nature that they can stop them and go further than that if it warrants in that case, or are we not to that?
Absolutely. If the officers observe violation, they can make a stop. Typically, I mean, if depending on the situation, contact parents and handle that. But to Councilmember Sohn's point, we can't write a 12-year-old a ticket. We have no ability to do that. They have to at least be 14 years old to receive any type of scheduled violation. So there's no mechanism in place for us. And even these other communities that have put municipal infractions in place, those municipal infractions are going to be the responsibility of their adult parents.
Yeah.
So I would argue that we are making inroads with the education and awareness, and we will take a look at maybe some enforcement procedures maybe on adults. But again, I think we need to have some data on what actually works, and because right now there just isn't any, and we would be taking a shot in the dark, if you will, if we just try to arbitrarily say, okay, we're going to do a $50 civil penalty like our counterparts in Norwalk, or $25 in Waukee or Clive. So it's just really impossible to know if that's even going to make a difference. That's why the focus on the education piece is so important, because again, if I see a 9-year-old run a stop sign on a scooter or an e-bike, aside from taking that scooter and calling mom and dad, that's going to be about it. And if I give mom and dad a $25 citation or municipal infraction, it's like a slap on the wrist at best, in my opinion. So
20 years ago, that might have scared a kid half to death, but
correct.
these days it doesn't scare the kids.
It's just different. So I just don't think there's enough body of work to suggest that is the way to go. And that's why the education emphasis is so heavy in all of these cities' ordinances and their approaches throughout the metro is heavy on the education. Like I said, Clive even told me today they're not even going to do anything with their municipal infractions for a period of at least 1 year, because they're going to focus on the education, because they feel like that's a more important approach. So, and I would agree with that.
Question for you, more of a, I guess, like, if this happened. So a lot of the complaints that I see, like on Facebook, it's habitual offenders. So a lot of the same kids over and over. If that occurs, do we have steps to go further on that, where maybe there's monitoring of that area where the child is and going to parents? Or how is that best handled when those, you see those complaints out there?
Yeah, if we have repeat offenders, obviously we're trying to talk to parents and again, force the education component. I mean, nobody likes to have a police officer standing at their doorstep, holding an electric scooter and holding Johnny by the hand saying, hey, kid's out here running stop signs again, and so it's just one of those things where, we'll handle the situation as appropriate. But again, it comes back to educating parents, because you can tell a 11-year-old till you're blue in the face, hey, you shouldn't do this, but until there's some type of of consequence to them, that's really hard. Right now, there's no mechanism for us to have a consequence for an 11-year-old. We have to rely on the parent to be upset with or correct that behavior, because there's no mechanism for us to do that. We can't parent them. We can only stop them in the middle of that conduct that got them there in the first place.
I would also say that going to Facebook and complaining isn't the right way to get action taken.
No, that's why I'm asking. Like,
Placing the call to the police non-emergency number is going to get you action.
Yeah, it's hard to investigate or handle a situation on Facebook. So I would concur with that.
I think the other thing, if I kind of am reading between the lines, and you made a comment earlier in your presentation, the state needs to put some teeth into things that allow you folks to make some changes as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I would concur with that. Right now, that there's just not, I mean, that's why communities are instituting a $25 municipal infraction or a $50 municipal infraction, because there is no other mechanism.
Not a traffic violation.
For holding folks responsible. So
you kind of hit on one of my 3 bullet points. So I agree with you, Chief, that like I think the larger answer is at the state level and engaging our state legislatures after the November elections about it, because it's not an Indianola problem. It's all over. And I agree with you. I think the optional 5-day should just go away. Like, let's just not even mess around with it. Let's just be like, you don't get to choose. Here's your fine. I do want to see us try to be a little proactive, but with that, we have to give you teeth, which you said too, to enforce things. I don't want it to go to the next level, you know, where it's not just an accident anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't want this to like fall to the wayside for us. I want it to be at the forefront. So when we can do the teeth part of it, we're ready to do it. So those were just kind of my thoughts.
Thank you. Yep.
Any other comments from staff? And Jason, you're still back there. This one chart, where and when I can ride, I know you folks put that together in your office probably and work with the police department to do that. Let's make sure we keep that. I already just printed a new mayor's memo, but I'll put this in the next couple of mayor's memos as well. Let's make sure we do that, so. Any other comments? Josh, you have anything to say, or are you okay?
No, I'm good. I appreciate the Chief's presentation. I think education for now is the path forward.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Thanks, Chief. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You bet. Obviously, it's something we'll be talking about again, so. All right, council committee reports.
I have a couple. To the right place here.
I have a fun one.
Okay.
So I attended yesterday, I ushered at DMMO and got to actually see some of Tosca. And I just want to, I've gone before, I'm very heavily in the arts, but seeing behind the scenes a little more was very eye-opening, just to see how much that goes on there, and that a lot of the performers that do come, I didn't know that they stayed in Simpson Housing for the time that they're here. I was not aware of that. Thought that was pretty cool. And if you're a music geek like me, what was really cool is yesterday it was the final performance, and in the audience was Simon Estes himself. So that was really cool. I fangirled a little bit. But also just the fact of how many people it brings to Indianola. I mean, they shuttle people from Ames, then they pick up in Des Moines, come down here. A lot of people are repeat visit. And so it was just really cool to see that we are very lucky to have them as a partner, and having that right here in Indianola is really cool. And hearing that many of the performers, but also the band as well, they're all professionals. They come from not just US, but other countries that are staying here. So they're obviously going to our, you know, downtown, they're going to the stores, so I just thought it was really eye-opening, really cool to see, so anyone that enjoys music, I encourage you to check that out. It was a good experience, so.
Do you have something?
I do, I have a couple. We met as a landfill board last Wednesday, and a few things that were top of the agenda. We increased the tonnage rate, bringing it to now $41. The board discussed the next steps of hiring the assistant landfill manager position. We received a few applications. We need to discuss what we need to do to move forward there. And then discussed a customer convenience center. And the intention there is to get the residential customer out of the line of the commercial traffic, so that it's not slowing down the line, but still allowing the residential customer to come into the landfill. So looking at options there. SERPTA met also last week. We approved an amendment to the TIP plan for HERDA light-duty bus and emergent expense assistance. That was through a grant. And due to rising fuel and insurance costs, I did ask for clarification on that. And he's also approved trail extension funding for Booton using supplemental transportation, the TAP funds, and the 27 through 30 TIP, and amendments to both the public participation plan and language assistant plan.
Yeah, I attended the IMU meeting last week, which was why I came in late for our study session. Gwen Schroeder attended her first meeting as a new trustee of IMU. It was announced that the proposed splash pad had received a $10,000 legacy grant from Prairie Meadows, so kudos to them. They approved a change order for the North 6th Street Place Water Main Improvements Project, and they expect to have that project done by mid-August. They actually have in their planning schedule till the 31st of October, but do believe it'll be done by the end of August. They authorized the purchase of a new skid steer for the water department. And then, of course, there was talk about the power outage that took place on Father's Day on the north end of town. Unfortunately, I think there's some people who believe that it was because trees that were not trimmed were the cause of this. And while that's true, they had done a lot of trimming in February that they pointed out. And we're getting back to some of that. And obviously, you can't control Mother Nature and storms. But workers stayed from 3 p.m. on that Sunday until 4 a.m. to get the work completed. So as difficult as that might have been for people, I think they also ought to be commended for their dedication to get those things taken care of. And then the final thing I just made note of is they're also talking about other ways to improve communication for planned outages going forward when they're making switchovers. And that's about it.
Any other council committee or council reports?
I just have one thing. I know it's like 4 months away, but Home for the Holidays in November. A lot of people in town had asked about like vendor applications, so that will be coming out in the next month. So keep an eye out for that for people that are interested.
I have one more thing to throw out. The Celebrate Warren County Parade will take place on August 1st at 10:30. There is still time to get your registration in, and lineup will begin at 9:30. We do need volunteers if you are available that morning. Lineup takes place at the pool. Volunteers need to be there at 9 o'clock. If you're interested, let me know. We are in desperate need of volunteers.
Councilmember Stones, I'd like to officially let you know that I'm happy to volunteer at 9 a.m.
We would love to have you.
I'll be there. If you need help, I'll be there too. This used to be it's the balloon parade though, essentially, right? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we've expanded it to include all of Warren County.
Yeah, right.
I'll be there.
We have a great lineup so far. We have a couple of city departments, and
There we go.
we're getting other cities involved, so it's turning out to be great.
Councilmember Davis and I got our first experience last year, so
Yeah.
we'll be professionals at
Ready
this
to
point,
go.
I imagine.
You
Professionals
were
at this.
great line pushers, so
Yes.
you know your job.
Moving.
All right, if there's anything else, before I move on here, the community update, Main Street fundraiser went very well Thursday night. Those of us that were there had a good time. Opera, to Tiffany's point, had a great run. Deb and I went to Mice and Men, and it was a wonderful performance. Good luck to the boys' baseball team. They play Ankeny, Sally's Polk tomorrow, I believe it is.
Wednesday now.
How's that?
Wednesday now. Rain pushed it back.
Wednesday now, huh? All right.
Yep.
So they still get to play, so. Warren County Fair runs Wednesday through Sunday this week, so there'll be a lot of activity in the city. There's a Thrive meeting at Thursday at 9 a.m. That is for about folks that are working on the state project to get people lined up so that we can help folks that need the help in our community. Iowa Association of Mayors meeting on Thursday at noon. We're going to talk about shared services among city governments and government entities, and we'll be talking, I'm sure, about electric scooters and mobility devices. So July 28th at noon this week, next week, the Iowa League of Cities is hosting a new laws seminar at noon. It's intended to run about an hour. If you are on a lunch break or something, you do need to register at the league website, but probably a good idea for those of us, as many of us can tune into that, would probably be a good idea. That's the 28th at noon. Also on the 30th, in the evening, there's a small cities workshop in Sheraton. Now when they say small cities, essentially what they're talking about are cities our size or smaller even. It runs from 5:30 to 8. There will be food there, Jake, just for you to make sure that you know that we have food. There's not a lot of people signed up right now. If they're kind of on the border whether or not they want to do it. I made some phone calls today to some of our cities in Warren County to see if they can get somebody there. But these workshops help cities of all sizes understand the changes at state legislature and also how the State League of Cities can help them. So
To you on that.
that's on the league website as well. So yeah, you can register there and it's a $50 fee, but I think we can probably figure out ways. We do have some educational funds available for the council. National Balloon Classic is July 31st through August 8th, as we've been mentioning here. Lots of activities there. They're still looking for some volunteers and different things. I just got a message from the Classic tonight that we're still looking for volunteers to help with the drone thing on the 8th. And so if anybody, again, citywide is interested in that, the Mayor's Youth Council will be working the gates that night. I may need a couple of adults to help with that. If you're interested, contact me or Jamie Mickelson at Park and Rec, and so make sure we get signed up. Well, I have a lot of Mayor's Youth Council kids away at camps, not only sports camps, youth camps, all kinds of things right now. And so we're kind of running on a lean group right now, so we can use any help you can get to.
Which day was that?
That was on Saturday, August 8th.
Okay. August 1st is the council one that we're
Yes,
doing, right?
yes, yep. Chamber of Commerce has a tour group from Michigan, Brilliant Adventures, coming to Indianola during the Classic. They previously hosted a group from Nebraska in June, have been working to bring more tours to town. To Melissa's point, the Warren County Parade is August 1st. Again, sign up. Disc Mania Golf, August 7th and 9th, and I'm guessing, Doug, you've been out mowing, if he's here, yep, he's back there. Yeah, he looks like he's been out there mowing, his all sand and everything. Getting ready for that. People will arrive earlier in the week, so probably during that week, you'll see people in and out. I do want to mention one thing too, Doug. When are you closing the parking lots and stuff on that? Because of there's been questions about people about being able to park there during the balloons, and that's not gonna happen that first week. You wanna talk about that for a moment?
Yes.
Good to get communication out.
Yeah, we did put communication out today.
Okay.
And we will again on next Monday, starting August 2nd. We'll have events at the park, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, of balloons, so.
So the second through what?
Second through the
To the
ninth.
8th.
Yeah, through the
Balloon
8th.
Classic.
So anybody that normally had gone to Pickard to park or watch the balloons and stuff, they're gonna have to
Go
find.
to the balloonclassic.com
Go to the Balloon
and
Classic.
get your tickets that way.
Yep. So, we do need to make sure people understand that and know that that's gonna be a major change for some folks, so. Coffee of the Mayor's Monday, or not Monday, Wednesday, September 2nd, at Savor the Rise. And again, Mayor's Youth Council and Unravel for Childhood Cancer will have two gold fundraisers. September 4th football game and September 29th volleyball game. They're gonna raffle off some gifts from different businesses in the community. And again, those are fundraisers for raising money for Unravel and against childhood cancer. Arts Festival is September 20th at Buxton Park from 10 to 5. That's another 2 months away, but we want to let people know that that's usually a big deal. So we want to make sure that people know that too. Go right ahead.
I just want to say something quick about Warren County Fair. I know a lot of times we mention with sports and everything, reminding people to go out and support. But just a reminder that these kids put in a lot of work with very heavy animals that don't like to cooperate. So, and projects that they work all year on. So I think it's great, not just to go out and enjoy it because it is free to enter, but also to support those kids. So just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Okay, thank you. All right, public consideration, old business, resolution approving a proposal for MGT for a classification and compensation study. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Lane, second by Davis. Let's have some discussion here. Jake, that's you, I'm guessing. Oh, that's Courtney. Thank you, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Courtney Silliman, HR. Before you tonight is a resolution approving the proposal from MGT for a classification and compensation study. As you know, the FY '27 strategic priorities include a comprehensive review of the city's classification and compensation plan. The enclosed proposal from MGT is ready for council consideration following internal and legal review. The council did set a goal for an evaluation and analysis of the comp plan for full-time and part-time positions for both union and non-union positions. The city last completed a full study with MGT, formerly GovHR, as many of you know, in 2022, approved via resolution on February 6, 2023 for fiscal year 2024. The primary services outlined by MGT align with council's expectations, and the proposed $23,400 cost is reflected as part of the review, the classification structure, the comp plan, and the employee benefits. The city council had previously requested consideration for reallocating the budgeted funds for the classification and comp study instead to initiate a sidewalk inspection program. However, the classification and compensation study directly aligns with the city council's strategic plan goal, which was further reinforced through the adoption of the city manager's goals. Accordingly, staff recommends proceeding with the classification and compensation study while exploring opportunities to fund a future sidewalk inspection program, whether through future budgeting, alternative funding sources, or a modified approach to that program. The budget impact, as requested by council, is under that $25,000 one-time expense for the classification comp study and does align with the priorities set to maintain competitive internal and external equitability for the compensation. As outlined, it can be completed within 6 months and would hopefully make it into the budget pending council consideration and adoption. Be happy to answer any questions that you have.
No questions, but just more comments. Jake, thank you for your response on my questions. Sorry to get back to you. My schedule is probably like yours. So some of my things were, I think it's important for this to incorporate current and past legislation at the State House. When the past study was done, those parameters were not, put on council at the time. And now with those parameters, I think it is really hindering our ability to execute what was put in place, ranging from everything from salaries to benefits to race structures, et cetera. I also want to make sure the data that we get is editable for future councils in case they need to pivot. That's why we have to do this again, is we couldn't get data and make any changes. I want to make sure that this council or future council is set up to be able to pivot and do what they feel they need to do. So I think that is something that we need to make sure we have the ability to do, whether it's next year or 3 years from now. So I just want council to be aware of kind of some of those things from my perspective. So again, Jake, thank you for your response.
I appreciate that feedback, Councilmember Armstrong. Did visit with Rachel Skaggs, who's the Vice President of MGT, who provided the information and the proposal before you tonight. She did affirm that we would work very closely together throughout the study to understand, of course, the legislative and financial environments that we are all operating under. Obviously, market competitiveness is top of mind with both internal and external equity, but implementation as far as decisions that the council needs to consider will be state legislation, like you mentioned, revenue limitations, collective bargaining agreements, long-term financial ability to pay, all of those types of things. And so they are aware of our situation and did say that we would work through that together. So thank you for bringing that up. She also did say that they would agree to collecting data from a broader pool of potential peer communities, like what the previous council had requested, outside of the initial scope. The previous council had asked that those 4 larger communities be included. So did say that survey process could provide greater flexibility if the council wished to evaluate those different peer groups in the future without requiring a new round of data collection. So great points, great questions, and appreciate you asking.
I had asked the same question or similar question to make sure that we were able to look into the future to cover the, Jake had said that these studies are typically have a life of 5-ish years. So make sure that we're thinking about future councils and the market when we do this study, including more cities, but getting data that we can manipulate if we need to take out cities that no longer meet the definition of comparable to us for whatever reason, whether they grow, we grow, whatever the case may be. But avoiding getting into the situation that we're in now where we need to pay to do another study because we're not able to alter the data that we have to take out perhaps larger communities to see what it does to our salary ranges, even just to look at it for analysis purposes, whether we make any changes or not.
To that point, Councilmember Solons, I do hear you, and I think it's important that we preserve the integrity, of the data and the collections. So I do hear you, and Rachel is also aware of your comments as well. So I do appreciate you asking.
I just want to make sure that we own the data. We pay for this study and it's ours.
We will get that guidance on how to maintain and, update the conversation going forward as we did, in the past.
Okay.
Definitely.
Looking for the data on an Excel spreadsheet so you can play with the numbers? Is that what you're wanting?
I'm not necessarily play with the numbers, but hide cities. So, in this particular scenario, take out larger communities or cities that may have a population change like Waukee. They've grown greatly since we originally included them.
We just choose what our peer communities are, ones that we feel are close to population, close to tax base, instead of including a larger city?
Right, so great question. The previous study did include 12 different criteria, median, range, household income, all those types of things. And so we've not specifically asked to choose our own, but it's on the private or the public sector employers with the most comparable, comps like the city. So we've not asked that specific question, can we choose our own? Because it's based on data, not, manipulating who we want to include and who we want to exclude.
Courtney, I might just clarify that a little bit. So, just to kind of restate what Courtney said is that MGT has a pretty sophisticated system for determining who truly is a peer for us. And as she was saying, there's 12 different metrics that they use that range from like median household income to population to tax base, so on and so forth. And then each of those, depending on the range and the variation from us, they get assigned a score. And there's a complicated matrix that ultimately everyone gets a grade at the end. And I'm going to kind of mess with these numbers a little bit, but it's like anybody that's over that scores like a 70 or higher or something to that effect, they are essentially considered a good comparable peer for us. So ultimately, as we go through this process, we can come to council and do a check-in once we update that peer community analysis and say, I think the study calls for 8 to 12 peer cities. We can show, based on their matrix that they put together and explain it, that accordingly, these are the 12 communities that would be most like us in the state of Iowa. And then we can have a discussion at that point to see, do we just want to take those top 12 based on those metrics? Or is there an interest in including or excluding a city for some reason or another, and then have a discussion on the validity of why we would not want to do that as we move forward. And I also think, to kind of paraphrase and I think align with what Courtney said, is that we would have the ability to potentially include a few extra cities that may not be peers per se, and then have the ability to hide or include them in the future. But again, all of those things are possible. I think ultimately what's important is the justification and the rationale behind why we would want to do that and what end we're hoping to obtain or achieve by doing so, and making sure that those reasons are valid and aligned with best practices.
I just have some concerns with wanting to modify the data, right? I mean, you can manipulate data however you want for whatever answer or decision you're looking for, and I just have concerns about us trying to get the data and then start subtracting or adding from that data. So I mean, our study's only a couple years old. I guess I don't know. I'm just concerned with spending another 25 to get roughly the same amount of data. And I understand we don't own, or maybe don't own the data, so to speak, but also some concerns in trying to modify that data that we would get with the new study.
I think the concern has been, I'll just be blunt, there's some pretty bad comparables in it. I think the council, no offense to anybody who's here, did a really bad job at looking at those comparables. And then when we said, we don't want Des Moines and Waukee and Ankeny, can't compete with that, right? Kind of the baseball analogy that I did, like you don't really compare the A's to the Yankees, right? They look and truly compare what you can compete with. We can't compete with some of those. So I wouldn't call it necessarily like data manipulation, because you're not like manipulating like their salaries or anything like that. You're just simply saying, I don't want Waukee in here. They've boomed. They're huge. Like, I can't compete with that. I think that's what we're trying to say is we've got to make sure what we're comparing ourselves to is truly comparable and what we can compete with.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you on one thing, and that we made a mistake as a previous council doing that. And you got to remember too that one council can't hold data from a previous council as hostage, I guess. In other words, every council is going to be different for 2 years. But what the point was with that, Steve, was that, we had been losing officers and firefighters to the city of Des Moines, and we had to figure out a way to make us somewhat comparable or understand what we needed to do to be able to be competitive and not lose as many officers and other folks to those positions. The other thing that we had to take a look at was the union, non-union positions, and we've also now included 2 more unions that we didn't have. 3 more unions we didn't have a couple of years ago, where we are at a point right now where, you know, that's gonna have a whole different ballgame here. You're only talking about a study that's gonna include a very small number of people in our staff. And I agree, though, we do need to have comparables that make sense for us, but again, I think we have to have the data that MGT is gonna provide on those 12 matrix, the 12 items there, that's gonna give us that information. And, you know, we've started the last year or so, year and few months now that Jake's been here, about being very data driven, and I wanna make sure that we're gonna pay for data, that we follow the data, and we're data driven in that sense. That's my position. I don't have a vote here, but that's just a comment that I wanna make.
No, I agree with the data. I think Des Moines is a very poor comparable, even if we're losing people there. There are risks to going and being a police officer in Des Moines, and I am sure Chief would be like, yep, there are a certain amount of risks that go with being a Des Moines police officer that does not come here. That is a choice for them to make. And we can't price ourselves out of being able to pay other people either. I mean, this isn't just about like, you know, this isn't about like PD or any specific department. It's holistic. You know, 76% of our budget was, our general fund budget is taken up by salaries and benefits. It's just not sustainable long term.
It's gonna get worse though, with the monies that we've got available and what we're cutting out here too. Is just gonna get worse.
So we just have to make sure we just have to do it right. We gotta make sure it all makes sense, from salary range to benefits to raise structures, except it's so all encompassing, and I just wanna make sure council has the ability to go, not sure that makes sense anymore. Like, not sure, you know, Waukee makes sense now. Can't do it. And I think that's kind of what Councilmember Stones is saying, is like, you know, if it doesn't make sense anymore, they should have the ability to pull it out or bring it in. You know, maybe we catch Waukee. Got a ways to go. But if we catch a Waukee and they make sense, how do you bring Waukee back in?
Sure.
And the data today doesn't allow you to bring Waukee back in if it wasn't there, so.
Okay.
And I think for me, some of this is just word choice and preference. Manipulation has a negative connotation. When you hear somebody say, well, we want to be able to manipulate the data. I don't even want to do it if we're going to manipulate data. Because to me, that says a whole different thing than we want to just make sure we've got a good comparative database. And I don't have the expertise to do that and decide. I think I can look at those measures and say, yeah, I think they had the right choice, but I, for one, would think, whether we like it or not, I do at least want to know, depending on what the cost would be, what's happening in the Waukees or the Des Moines, because we are going to compete with them whether we want to or not for people. And Steve, I think you're right as far as the difference in being a police officer in downtown Des Moines versus downtown Indianola. Absolutely right. But the bottom line is we're still going to have to compete with them to a certain degree, and compete's another word, kind of like manipulation, I guess. But I want to make sure when we do this, we're getting data that makes sense to us, which is what I hear you saying, and taking their expertise and putting together that data. I'm still a little confused by what you're talking about with the previous council and stuff and what was put together, because I wasn't here then and in tuned enough to know. But I think if we're going to do this, we want to take their expertise, because that's what we're paying for, have them put the data in front of us, and then be prepared as a council to say, that's really going to work for us or not, and make those decisions then.
I think, to what you were saying, I don't think it's manipulation, it's the fact of, you know, I work at a smaller mortgage company than some big names, right? You can do a study and you can say, hey, this company pays this much, we pay this much. We're gonna compare it, have a comparable, we're gonna compare it, we can see those numbers, but you know what, we should be able to throw that out of like, we can't pay that. We're not that big company. If I'm understanding you right, is what we're trying, what I would think makes sense as well. I mean, like you, I wasn't here 2 years ago, so I don't know all that went behind that, but, you know, and I think it comes to the fact of we do this and then it's just education. And, you know, Chief Hawkins was just talking about how getting education out to people, then it's education of what else does Indianola offer? Money's great, but there's other things that we can offer too. So I think that's where we're coming of like, okay, yeah, say Waukee, because we've just used their name, Waukee pays this much more. We can't compete with that. Okay, what else what are we offering that they don't offer? And so I think it's not manipulation, it's being able to have all of the information and use it to what we know is Indianola. Because we've said, I mean, I'm speaking for myself here, but I didn't move here to make buco bucks, right? I moved here because of the schools, because of IMU, because there's other things that I moved here for, right? So I think that's what we're trying to say is it's not manipulating the data, it's having all of it and being able to strategically use it to fit within Indianola and not, oh, well, we should compare to Waukee, we should probably hire that up. No, we're Indianola. Yeah, it's out there, we have that information, but being able to balance that. I think if I'm understanding what you're saying, right, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I never said.
Being able to,
Yeah, I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
being able to change our comparable cities as we as a city grow
Yeah.
in the future.
That shouldn't happen over, really honestly, 3 to 5 years, you should be able to kind of keep those comparable cities. Once you establish the right comparables that the council makes that decision on, because your items aren't gonna change that much, except unless, of course, you get a lot of unionization, which then does change the matrix quite a bit.
I think,
I agree to a point, but here we are 2 years, what are we, 2 years? 3 years into the study that should have lasted 5. However, the MGT recommended a set of comparable communities, and council at the time, staff recommended adding in the 4 larger communities, and that's what was passed. So, you know, had you gone with just what MGT recommended, maybe we wouldn't be where we are today. I understand the reasoning to an extent, but we're in a different time now because of legislation changes and different market factors.
Well, we are and we aren't. And I think that, yes, we are in a different time economically or financially with what the city's done, or state's done as far as our ability to raise revenue, but I think the point is that we still have to compete to a certain degree with cities that are a little bit bigger than us and even a little bit smaller than us in certain areas. But I think that, you know, we had a superintendent move from us to a little bit smaller city. And so there's differing factors and reasons why people move, and it's just not all financial, you know, as we've talked about in the past here. Jake, you had some comments I think you were gonna make, right? I'll let you get it.
yeah, I don't wanna muddy the waters, because again, we're ultimately just discussing, we want to re-up the study that was done. I think one of the things we get hung up on as a group, or we talk a lot about, is the inclusion of these larger cities. But I think what's important to recall, and Courtney, please jump in here, those 4 large cities are 4 of 15, right? So those cities were then averaged together, right? So you may have 4 larger cities that were included, but we also have Pella's and other cities that are in there as well that are smaller in different situations than us. And when you average them, you tend to gravitate back towards the middle of that. And then once we had that average data, then ultimately council at that time made a decision to implement this at the 50th percentile, which when we look at the MGT chart in the study, that's actually kind of the lowest level of percentile that they recommend implementing. Other cities may look at implementing ranges at the 60th percentile or even the 70th percentile. So again, I know Rachel's not here to talk more educated on it, but at the same point, I would make the point that yes, the city of Indianola chose to include 4 larger cities at that time, which were then averaged with 11 other cities, which then brought it back towards that median, and then chose to implement at the 50th percentile. And now we're speculating here, but ultimately, we don't know how different that would have been had we just included the original 11 and choose to implement it at the 60th percentile, which also would have been a very valid point or a valid way to implement a salary study. The other point on that is we're not comparing ourselves to Waukee's continued growth. We use the cities of Waukee, Ankeny, West Des Moines, and all those organizations at a snapshot in time back in January and February of 2023, which all of that did was it allowed the establishment of a salary range from a minimum all the way up to a maximum. From that time, we implemented the salary study over years in accordance with MGT's recommendation, and that is to have an annual cost of living adjustment based on what our peers are doing, as well as the consideration of an inflationary metric, and then having a merit-based increase available based on a 34-35% range from the minimum of that salary to the maximum of that salary. So after that initial snapshot 2 years ago, Waukee's raises since that time have not impacted what Indianola has done. It just helped set an initial salary range for all the positions that we have. And then since that time, Human Resources in the city have implemented it in accordance with best practices, which during that time also included foregoing a merit-based increase, which Indianola was the only city of our peer communities to forego a merit-based increase during that time. So at the end of the day, we found a snapshot in time based on statistically valid data, and then the staff here has continued to implement that salary study in accordance with best practices aligned with MGT. I think at the root, from a professional perspective, there's no real reason to think that this study is going to find anything different than what our current study has found. However, as a goal of City Council, we're happy to go back through this exercise and validate the data once again. But I really wanted to chime in here and just try to curtail this narrative that somehow we've done something as a city, or somehow this study has justified salaries running rampant, when I think quite the opposite. We're going to find that what it has done is made us competitive and put us right in line with the market. And with that being said, if we find something different in an updated study that deviates from that one way or another, I will certainly, be willing to accept those results and implement them professionally, whatever they yield.
I think you just spoke to what I'm kind of concerned about is, if we keep it how it is, nothing's going to change, right? So we're keeping all of these cities the same. So if we're gonna look at this, in my eyes, and I don't know how this works, but in my eyes, why are we not looking at if we're gonna do this, why are we not looking at comparables and having that conversation then? Of like, do we still think these are the accurate comparables? If we're totally redoing this.
Well, MGT is going to tell us what the comparables should be.
We will, yeah, that'll be part of the study, is we would reinitiate who our comparables are.
Melissa, to your point, you had stated like we, not me, but like a couple years ago, there was ones that were added in. So if we do this study, or is it gonna be the same thing where we're like, well, no, we wanna add those in?
That would be a council decision ultimately. What we'll do is we'll bring you basically a score of 70 or higher with the help of MGT and say, these are the cities they would recommend including in an updated study. Ultimately, it'll be up to council to say, we want to include or exclude certain cities, and we'd have to go through the justification of that, and I'm sure MGT would say, yeah, that makes sense, or maybe that one doesn't make sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Which to add to that point is exactly what we did last time, and that was the desire at that time.
Mayor, do you mind if I share something here for a minute?
Go right ahead.
I appreciate all of the commentary. I have to admit that I have a lot of trepidation when I hear words like edit and manipulate, and I'm going to trust kind of what Councilmember Davis said, that maybe that's just poor phraseology. I think we are very focused on trying to find the right words. To Jake's point, it is a snapshot in time, right? That we've worked ourselves off of. We've also used these studies from different organizations that we've trusted their data to, if I read Jake's email right that he sent us, I think a couple weeks ago, implement approximately $3.2 million in savings over the next 5 years, right? Without worrying about it. What's to say that the council in 2 years isn't going to want to spend another $25,000 because we don't think we like one part of it and we're just not sure? That's okay, that's our prerogative, and that's why it's good to have this discussion. But we're 2 years into a 5-year study, and I feel like we focus so much on this cost saving aspect of it is what I hear come out in these discussions a lot, which is great. To that point, staff has implemented $3.2 million in savings over the next 5 years. I also just want to make sure we call out some of the positives, right? Like we're supposed to be guiding and reinforcing staff, not for the betterment of their careers necessarily. I mean, that's a nice, cool thing that we get to do, but also people give us their tax dollars to do good work for them in the city. We want good, excellent staff to execute those goals, right? That's how you implement all these studies to save $3.2 million over 5 years. And I just, maybe I'm wrong and I'm hearing it wrong, and I apologize. I get nervous when I keep hearing manipulate, edit, reduce, all this stuff. It's good in the right context. I worry sometimes what our end goal here is exactly, and are we not going to be here again in 2 years, right, into a 5-year study. And so if we want to trust MGT to do their jobs as the market experts in this for the $23,000 and change, 25,000, whatever it ends up being, I'm comfortable with that and seeing where it comes out for us. What I'm not comfortable with is spending this money without a clear goal and telling our consultant that, well, we understand that we hired you to be the expert, but we don't think you're the expert, and we want all your stuff so we can manipulate it and use that as a hammer in the wrong venues. You know, that's my biggest concern in some of this discussion, is that I don't know that I guess I don't fully understand what our end game here is when we talk about editing and manipulating. I understand wanting to be current, and I understand wanting to be judicious with taxpayer dollars. I also don't want to live in a city where we are stubborn to some code that is constantly shifting, and we don't fill positions like the wastewater treatment one that we just filled, right? Because we are in a competitive market, and you know, and I apologize, it's tough to articulate. I'm staring at you all on a tiny little iPad screen sitting in a hotel room, but I appreciate the conversation and the work, and I want this to be profitable and good for the city and good for our citizens and good for our staff. I just want to make sure that we're all aligned on trusting our consultants and doing this for the betterment of our community and our staff that we serve.
Josh, to answer your question, where I was coming from was council had asked at one point, can we remove Des Moines? And it was just a no. So where I'm coming from is I want future councils to be able to have the flexibility to add and remove if they deem necessary. And that's all I want, is flexibility for future council to say, I want this city or I don't. That's their prerogative if they want to, but.
I hear you, and I appreciate that. It seems, I just worry to a certain extent about the slippery slope, right? Then we are taking a snapshot in time that uses very heavy analytical data to then take anecdotal input later. And maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. I'm telling you, it makes me nervous, and just trying to share my feelings as well.
And it's not so much even removing it, it's hiding it just to see what the results would be, to make a determination whether you are to move forward with a project or not, right? I mean, I guess in my mind, when we were back discussing this last year.
So what's the point of hiding something then?
Hiding it so you can see what the results would be if you took those cities out of your comparable.
So then do you raise the percentage by which you're gonna give people, you're gonna take 60% then, and rather than 50% if you take that one city out? Because what happens, Melissa, in those kinds of situations is that you are manipulating the data. What Steve is saying, what I'm hearing him say is that we have the opportunity, and maybe I'm incorrect here, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're saying is, and what Jake said, is that we're gonna have the ability to pull in those 10 or 11 or 8 or 9 cities that we have. That should be the 9 cities for the next 5 years that we operate under, not pull those people out, but have the ability then to look at those. And it may be a situation where we need to be at the 60th percentile or the 70th percentile because of where we are with our staff and everybody else. And so I think we have to be very careful with this. It's not about cutting people's salaries and benefits here, in my opinion, folks. And this is where, I don't know if this is the elephant in the room or not, but the bottom line is we've cut staff and we're asking our staff to do more and more with less and less. And folks, if you don't want a city that's gonna operate efficiently and function and have good people come in and wanna be part of this city, you've gotta have a study that says, we're gonna be good for 5 years here and we're gonna follow this. Jake made the point, we were the only one in the last, out of all the compensation cities that we had in the last 5 years, that didn't give raises 1 year.
We did give COLA.
We did give COLA. We didn't give-
I wanna call that out.
But I mean merit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Probably saved us another position too this year.
It could have, but back to my point though, again, we've got to be able to have, and again, Jake, how many people are non-union? Or Jackie, or does anybody know?
40, is it?
30?
Last I saw was 40 out of 94.
Yes.
So about 43% of our staff is non-union at this point.
So really what we're talking about here is 40-some% of our staff.
We're gonna benchmark all of the positions, but when there's collective bargaining agreements in place, of course, we're gonna follow them, so the ability to make any adjustments would be limited, because we've got, contracts that we negotiated in good faith and agreed with the labor entities.
Question, so, and I mean, I know Rachel's not here, but so with this study, since I wasn't here, this is covering not just compensation though, this is covering benefits, everything. Accurate? Correct. Okay. So I think that for me is what is the most important. I mean, like I said, compensation, that, you're in line with people, I get that. I think the biggest thing is benefits, because as someone that experienced a layoff recently, because things like this are not done, I think it's important that we compare that and have, you know, you can be the best at your job and you get laid off because, oh, well, budget cuts. You know, we're different in that way because we're private and we can see how valuable people are. And, you know, I'm getting off track, but what I'm saying is, if we're doing this study, we're not just looking, it's not just compensation, it's not just money, benefits is huge.
Absolutely.
And so I think if we can have that as well, and that we can, again, sustainable budget, like, we can see that and we see, okay, you know what, we're gonna give 4% increases. Then we can know and plan for that in the future, where if we have those comparables, and I think that's what someone's just saying is like, we are a farming community. We're not Waukee. We don't have big corporations up there, right? We have to be able to remember that. And I think that's what we're trying to say is just that we have that ability to have common sense when we sit down to say, you know what, that's a great benefit package that they can offer. We just can't offer that. And that it's not just black and white. And I'm very analytical and I love numbers and a lot of times in black and white, but I think this is a gray where we have to be able to be gray and sit down and it's not manipulation, it's just putting all the information out and saying, that's great, I would love to match that, but we just can't. And that we have that option. And if that's not even an option, I don't know that it's really even worth spending $25,000 for. So that's my opinion.
I think seeing the total compensation package is a huge factor in this.
Yeah.
And how it compares to our comparable cities.
So I think the last comment I would just make and is, again, I think I'm on board with this as long as we maintain the integrity. The only caveat I would add is that when we had this discussion as part of a goal setting session, this also was a snapshot in time from 6 months ago, 4 months ago, when our budget looked a lot different. We have entrusted and empowered Jake and our department heads to make some very wise decisions. And now we're talking about a study for $25,000 that affects less than half of our staff. And I'm starting to question, as we've talked about it more, which I'm grateful for that we had this opportunity to talk it through, what the, I guess, ROI that we're trying to get here is. And, you know, is this something that we're going to truly move the needle on 2 years into a 5-year study by redoing it. When again, we can just be in a spot where in 2 years, the council might say, well, these guys didn't know what they were doing. And they're right back in the same spot. Or can we take that $25,000, since we've made a lot of the staffing adjustments that we've made that have been difficult, challenging, but have been very beneficial to our budget, and use that $25,000 somewhere that is a more impactful opportunity for the citizens of the community. I don't know the right answer on that just yet, as we're still talking through it. But I think when this goal was initially set out, the world looked different. We were not sure of what our budget was. We were not sure of how staff was going to implement some of the studies we've already paid for, and what that was going to look like. And again, I think we've taken those studies as moments that are professional and professional product, and implemented them, and we've seen the benefits. I'm only on board with this if we're doing this with the same ethos and we really truly understand what we're trying to accomplish here, because I'm not sure that the goal hasn't shifted over the last few months, given all that we've done.
I'm with Josh on that. I feel like after hearing everything and talking about it more, I mean, it's not something that we have to just be like, nope, table, it never comes back. I think it's, especially, to speak to Jake and staff, they've made those hard conversations happen, and we're in a different position that I do think we need to, I would be lying if I said we didn't. I do think we still have room for growth in looking at our plan, but I don't know that $25,000 to be told the same thing is really beneficial at this point. I don't know.
Mayor and Council, if I may add just a couple of thoughts to that. So the first thing I would say is that we would never not look at this again, because ultimately in the report is going to say that these have a 5-year lifespan. We're in year 3, I believe, or going into year 3 of it. So regardless of the outcome tonight, whether we do it now or not, the thing is as long as I have my say, and I said yes, we would be back here in 2 years from now, because we would be having the justification to say this plan has lived its useful life. It's now time to reanalyze it. So. From that perspective, we would follow the best practices identified within the plan, regardless of what happens. If it stays in place, we would come back 2 years from now, and we would reanalyze it at that time. Anyway, the other thing I would say is that regardless of what these studies do, and I don't want to, they're very important. I want to make sure I don't oversell them or undersell them. But ultimately, what they do is they give the range of the salary, right? And if we re-up the study, it's going to say the same thing. It's going to give us a salary range. And at the end of the day, the implementation year over year, from a wage and benefits perspective, is going to always be contingent, again, based on my philosophy, on our ability to pay, right? So when we look at some of the modeling that's going to come out from Piper Sandler, from the league in the next couple of months, and some of the abatement discussions such that we're going to have better tools to be able to project what our FY28 revenue is going to look like. And that's where Jackie and Courtney and myself and the rest of the department heads will get together and analyze that in the context of, this is what our revenue growth is, and these are some of the expenses that we have that are ongoing and such, and we'll be able to make a decision as a group and with the council to say, yes, this level of raise does or does not fit within that plan. And that's going to be the same conversation we're going to have, whether we're on this compensation plan or any other compensation plan. It is always going to be tied back to our ability to pay it in a sustainable manner. So that conversation also is not going to change, regardless of what the salary ranges are. We're going to be looking at what is inflation doing, what does cost of living look like, and on top of that, do we have the revenue streams to be able to offer a merit increase? And those are the decisions we'll make year in and year out, as we would with any other type of expense as we're approaching those budget times.
And why it's worth it, just kind of with what Jake said, incorporating state house limitations, it wasn't around 3 years ago. It's such a big key now on how things could be structured differently potentially. We weren't living under those, rules. You weren't capped on revenue then. So to Jake's point, our revenue stream's impacted now. It wasn't when it was done in 23.
Well, we are. Are we in year 3 or year 4 of House File 718?
When Councilmember Stones and I started, that was the first year of restrictions from what Andy presented us in our first meeting, when nothing made sense.
I'm not sure it still does, Steve.
I just think it would be a shame to not do this now, due to all of the things that have come our way with our budget and the restrictions being placed on us. We need to look at our total compensation and benefits and make sure that we're in line and look at our comparable communities.
So what if the comps come back and it says our staff is underpaid? I mean, and then what's the end goal then? I mean, are we gonna say, well, we have to give a larger merit increase than what we had planned in order to bring them up to comparable cities? Or vice versa, right? Maybe the plan comes back and says, hey, you know, some of our staff is overpaid. I mean, is the end goal then to decrease their salary? I mean, I get, that's where I think I get into the slippery slope part of this salary study.
When the results come back, we're gonna have to have discussions on what we do with the results.
So, I know we said it covers compensation benefit. Is this including merit, COLA, all of it? Like what, or is that more at a city level?
No, it'll cover that. So the original study actually, and I'm sorry, Courtney, I'm probably stealing your thunder on this, but it actually laid out different considerations of how to implement COLA and merit, right? So there's open range systems, there's step systems like what we have, there's hybrid systems where a portion of it is step and then a portion of it is open range. Ultimately, the system that we have for merit-based increases was in line with the MGT recommendation 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, I guess, depending on how we're doing math. So ultimately, I don't think our circumstances has changed, that they're gonna come back and say, we think, oh, we put you on a step plan 2 years ago, we now think you should go to an open range. It might, right? They may look at, some of the state house changes and say we should have a different structure to it, but more than likely that recommendation from MGT, the environment likely hasn't changed enough where they're gonna say, well, we recommended a step change or a step system 2 years ago. We now think you should go with a completely different system. Courtney, feel free to add to that. They could, but they did explore step, open range, combinations thereof, and at that time, they ultimately recommended that we would go with the step system, which we have. And again, whether we do this study now or we do it in 2 years ago, we still would have an opportunity to redo that analysis.
My biggest hiccup is, I think, I put Chief out here, but I think, like with Lexpol, it was fiscally responsible spending. Like it's going to do something good for us. Spending $25,000, if I'm voting yes on spending money at this point, after what we've done with our budget and cut it so much, I wanna make sure we're saving that in the future. You know what I mean? We're not just spending it to be told the same dang thing. So, I don't know. That's where I'm.
Well, and I think based on what Jake said just a few moments ago about whether we do this or not, we're gonna still have to be making some of the same decisions based on our ability to pay, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a few years left in the study. With the parameters are set, we're still gonna have the same conversations. Let's not lose sight of the fact they're bringing us, whether it's Jake, Courtney, Jackie, Bryce, whomever, they're bringing us information we asked for. We set the goals.
Yeah.
And so if we wanna pivot now and say, let's not do it, I'm okay with that. And I'm agreeing with what you're saying, Tiffany, and what Jake said a few minutes ago. If we're gonna be at the same point, let's not do it. I feel like we ask these people who are already overtaxed to spend a lot of time on something that now we're saying, yeah, we changed our mind. And normally I don't like doing that. But to me right now, because of that ticket and other things we could use it for, and to get to Ron's point, and what's the end game? That end game's gonna turn out to be the same thing, whether we do it or not. And like I said, let's spend that somewhere else.
If it was
so that
January.
the taxpayers benefit and these people right here benefit. That's kind of where I am with it.
Okay, folks.
I would say this is at least in our FY27 budget where Lexipol is not.
It is, but is it being spent? That's where my biggest thing is, like, and I think that's at least a goal that I've talked to Jake about, is being fiscally responsible. And so every dollar we're spending, you see all the complaints out there, you're not spending our money right, you're not spending. Okay, so are you okay with us spending $25,000 to potentially be told the same thing and we're not saving any money? Like, are we good with that? 'Cause I don't,
Keyword potentially, right? I think most people would say, yeah, see what happens. Like, see what it says, see what state house implications do.
so that's what we're saying is changed in this 5-year study. That's why we're doing a new one is because of state.
Yeah, for me, I mean,
That's
what
what I'm
does
trying
that
to-
do?
Taking out the
What
larger
does,
communities that we cannot compare with.
what do state house implications mean in all of it? We don't know. It was done before it, so.
Any other comments, folks? Hearing none. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ray,
No.
Selby,
No.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Davis,
What else I skipped? Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Lane,
No.
Motion fails 3-3. Okay. We're on to resolutions of support for Maximilian's Muddy Puddles to apply for a grant.
I got this one.
Okay.
Muddy Puddles has requested a letter of support to accompany their grant application to Variety. If awarded, the grant funding would be directed toward either a bathroom facility or a shade pavilion. The draft letter before you states that the city would assume responsibility for owning, operating, insuring, and maintaining the splash pad, contingent upon the project completing all required processes, receiving formal approval, being funded, meeting all city codes and policies, being constructed in accordance with city standards, and establishing an appropriate maintenance endowment and/or maintenance agreement. Given the current stage of the project, staff collaborated closely with Muddy Puddles and the city attorney to prepare a letter that supports their grant efforts while clearly acknowledging the remaining steps in the process that are yet to be completed. Staff recommendation on this item is for council consideration. The drafted support letter reflects both encouragement for the grant application and the contingencies tied to the outstanding formal requirements. Ultimately, it is at council's discretion to determine whether to move forward with issuing the letter at this time with the understanding of all the outstanding formal steps that are still needed.
Discussion.
I believe we've got the applicants if they have anything they'd like to add.
I would just like to say Waukee has 2 splash pads in all of this debate. We are.
Would you come to the podium, please?
So, we did have the opportunity, we kind of passed through the first round of vetting for this grant. This program or the Varieties organization is reputable. They're wholesome, they do parks for a living, they're very good at it, they understand the process. They understand that there's many pieces that go into this, many approvals. And so we passed the first round of vetting. We were able to meet with them on site. They did so with us at a local coffee shop. We got to tell them all about our project. We got to show them the location that we were looking at maybe doing this. And so we feel pretty optimistic. They asked us a lot of in-depth questions about our funding, about our sustainability. And ultimately what it comes down to for them is they know how these things work. They want to give money. They do some really cool stuff. They do love the legacy stuff. What they want to know is that 3 mothers are not going to be taking out the trash, winterizing this thing, making sure that if there's a pony waste that we're not the ones doing it. And we don't intend to do that. We're not the ones that are going to be overseeing construction because that's not our subject matter expertise. And so that's ultimately the goal of this, is just to know that it's not us, that if all the things happen that need to happen, that eventually it will go to the city and the people like Doug back here who will be the ones managing it. So that's basically what our letter is. It's drafted very carefully to make sure that there's no misrepresentations as well, but also to the point that they get what they need. They know it's going to take some time and that they'll have the assurances they need to do this. So, thank you.
I think I'll speak, since I'm probably the one up here that would use a splash pad the most. I may be biased, I obviously want one. I think if we're doing this letter of intent, that we also make sure we have the intent out there that we are all willing to work together as a team. You just spoke to, this is going to be a very team effort. Everybody has their expertise and we need to trust in that and work together on that, because as someone that has followed Rusty and Maximilian's legacy, I think it's important we keep that at the forefront. So I get teary-eyed, emotional mother. But I think that by doing this, and we vote yes, that we keep that in mind going forward, is that we work together, we support each other, and that is always what comes first. And that's me with giving a yes to this, so.
I'm fine with it as long as, the big part for me is the endowment for the maintenance and ongoing costs, just because of where we are budget-wise. It has to pay for itself.
And that'll come later when we approve the, when we accept the.
Real quick, we do have
Project.
money set aside for an endowment. We have worked with the Greater Des Moines Foundation. Right now, if we start with 50,000, we're projecting like 148,000 would be in there at an 8% conservative rate. That right now is about 30,000 less than the maximum amount we have in any park endowment fund right now. That one was probably in establishment for over 20 years, so we are projecting to do better than anything the city actually probably has right now within our endowment. So we're crossing that bridge, we're working through those pieces, but that will come soon, hopefully in time. Just getting this grant though will get us there a little further, and it'll open the door to some other additional grants, especially from the state. So that's why it's important for this one to go through.
So how much do you have currently? How much do you have on?
We have about just shy of 70,000 right now, with a couple more grants outstanding, 2 grants outstanding, excluding this one that we are in the running for.
And this one is for how much?
We've asked for 200,000. We know we're not gonna get that, but they've expressed maybe some interest in purchasing a peripheral structure, so like a bathroom or potentially a pavilion, could be anywhere from 50, 25,000 to 85 or more.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions?
Mayor, if you don't mind real quick, do
Yeah, go ahead.
we have a location or a park size determined yet, or is that still all kind of up in the air? That affects, endowment sizes and all that stuff. Just curious.
The answer is.
I can speak to that. There's not been a location that's been formally recommended by the Parks Commission or approved by the City Council this time. However, in conversations with the group, we are honing in on really 1, maybe 2 sites. But I do think we have a site that we are particularly interested in kind of working towards at this point.
That answer your question, Josh?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I think this is a wonderful cause, a wonderful thing for the community. I just, to echo some of Dalby's concerns, I just want to make sure that we're eyes wide open and understand what this is going to mean for everybody going forward. And I appreciate Councilwoman Davis's comments on working together. I think that's the only way this does work is just collaboration and eyes wide open going forward.
Yeah, I was gonna pretty much say what Josh said. That's kind of scary, Josh, I'm sorry.
Apologize, Bob.
And
My
if you
bad.
read, if you read the resolution, it still doesn't commit us if for whatever reason something happened, God forbid. But if it does, there's not any financial commitments here based on the city if we're concerned about budgets, things like that. It just helps them take another step. And if this is a critical piece in opening up doors for other grants, I'm comfortable because of the fact that it's been reviewed by legal and drafted.
Yeah, I would just say, I appreciate the effort that's gone into this. A group of people who want to bring an amenity to the city, and park is something that's greatly needed. So I appreciate that. I think teamwork is something that's very important, and especially going forward, we need to be lockstep with one another and working together to make this happen.
Public-private partnership.
Yes.
There's no other comments. I would, we need a motion yet? Okay, I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Son, second by Davis. No further comments, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Stones?
Motion carries 6-0. We're on to zoning code amendment. Public hearing regarding amendment chapter 16505.
Mayor,
Yes,
we have a
ma'am.
question. We wondered if we could skip to item 4 first.
Okay.
Is that okay, Allison?
Yes.
Yes.
As long as
Okay, we'll move to item 4, but remind me to come back to item 3 because
will,
knowing me,
yes.
I'll be ready to get there. So,
Yep.
all right, so we are on item 4. Need a motion and a second for public hearing regarding the vacation and conveyance of city property, certain easements for the Culvers project. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Davis, second by Dalby. Clerk call the roll. Bob, before, hold on.
Councilmember Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
There you go.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
We are now in a public hearing. Bill, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The next few agenda items I'll cover as one presentation, as every component is included in my report to you guys. So tonight we have a site plan for Culvers, Indianola. The applicant is JPJ Acquisitions LLC, represented by Brad Keel with Bishop Engineering. They're requesting approval of a site plan for a Culvers restaurant located at 1901 North Jefferson Way. It's that really funky lot at the corner of Jefferson Way, Rolling Vista Place, West Hillcrest. The property is 1.30 acres in area and is currently zoned C2 highway commercial. The lot was platted in 2003 as part of Lot 5 of Scenic Point. I'm gonna try this strong. It's this lot up in the far northeast corner of the lot. It's the it's the last lot in the subdivision to be developed. Included in this lot is a series of easements that kind of add to its trickiness to develop. Along the east side, we've got a 30-foot access easement or a frontage road easement. Within this is also a public utility easement, and that kind of that wraps around this area of the lot. And then along this area of the lot is this series of L shapes is a landscape buffer easement, and then just this L shape is a public utility easement. Glad I got that out of the way. Also, in this lot is a pretty restrictive 90-degree angle that helps to, it doesn't help anything. It helps to prohibit decent development on this lot. It's a triple frontage lot with street frontage on 3 sides. That means they have to abide by the front yard setback on 3 different sides of this lot, which also provides a little bit of sort of a tricky way to develop the lot. The applicant is proposing a 4,100 square foot building, about 23 feet in height at its tallest point. The project includes 2 drive lanes that are one drive-through lane here that separates into 2 menu board speaker areas, and then they'll come around and exit the site there. It also includes an outdoor patio area for outdoor seating in this area there. Monument sign is proposed near the northeast corner of the site. It's in this area here, and then the trash enclosure is at the southwest corner of the site, down in the corner. 3 driveways will provide access into and out of the site. 2 accesses are off the frontage road, 1 access there and 1 to the south there, and then 1 access off of Rolling Vista at this side of the site. The applicant is proposing 41 parking spaces, including 2 accessible stalls. The parking requirements dictate 38 spaces are required, so they're in exceedance of what's required for the parking ordinance. A 5-foot sidewalk will be installed along the entirety of Rolling Vista area, Rolling Vista Place. And I'm going to skip ahead here for just a second to our colorful diagram here. This kind of goes in line with a sidewalk waiver request as well. So everything in yellow is what's proposed for new sidewalks. So you've got here along the frontage road, a little bit of a gap, a sidewalk at the north end of the site that will connect to the existing crosswalk to help facilitate pedestrian access from across Jefferson Way, and then the entirety of Rolling Vista Place. The applicant is requesting a sidewalk waiver for this area. Instead, they're proposing a 5-foot sidewalk that goes from Rolling Vista through the site, and then we'll meet up with with where it ends along the frontage road. All utilities have been installed with the plat improvements and will be extended as needed to service the new restaurant. Stormwater detention will occur with a detention basin at the far west end of the site. Photometric plan has been submitted and complies with the requirements of the site plan ordinance. 20% of the site plan is required to be open space. They are providing 54%. The plantings are in conformance with the site plan ordinance. Colored elevations were provided for review. They're to be constructed of thin brick veneer, stone veneer, a little bit of ephes and fenestration or windows. The trash enclosure is proposed to be constructed of the same materials minus the windows. A series of vacations are also part of this project, including a right-of-way vacation and a public utility easement vacation. At your next meeting, you'll review the landscape buffer easement vacation. Here, the original concept plan identified a couple of drop-through lines that encroached into the city right-of-way. Knowing you can't have that, we decided to take a look and meet with other departments. It was discovered that the only utility in that area is a fiber line. So after conferring with Kurt at IMU, even with this vacation, the fiber line is still outside of this right-of-way vacation area. That being the only barrier, the city decided it was in its best interest to vacate the right-of-way to help facilitate this development. This is the area of the public utility easement that is to be vacated. It'll be redefined at a later date. But because of that, the 90-degree angle, converting more to a gradual angle that kind of follows the line of Rolling Vista Place, that's going to be vacated and redefined. And then for reference, this is the portion of the landscape buffer easement that'll be vacated hopefully at the next meeting. This area is required to remain because it's residential to the west. The previous ordinance required landscape buffer easements when there were separate adjacent zoning districts that were commercial versus residential. However, the new zoning ordinance says that when these zoning districts are separated by a public way, a landscape buffer easement is no longer needed. And since you can't construct in a landscape buffer easement, it's best to just vacate this because it's no longer needed. At their June 3rd, 2026 meeting, the Board of Adjustment approved a variance request for a front yard setback variance. I'm sorry, I passed up. Here's the colored elevations for reference. Go back to the dimension plan here. They chose to seek a variance for this front yard setback, varying about 10 feet. So the setback will be about 29.7 feet instead of 40. So
instead of how much, 40?
40 is required.
Okay, but I
Just
didn't
seeking
hear what you said.
No. Yeah, so the front yard setback as proposed will be about 29.7 feet. So that variance will allow the building to be a standard size Culver's restaurant while meeting all the other setback requirements as required in our ordinance.
We said that setback there, that gives enough space still, like everything utility-wise?
Yep. Okay. And then the last part of it again is a sidewalk waiver request that they're requesting for this little portion here. Staff is in favor of this because of topographical issues. There's a big transformer up in this area here. And that because they're also proposing in lieu of to provide an additional sidewalk through the site that helps facilitate some more access. So,
So are they paying for that portion along Hillcrest there then? Is that how that's happening or what?
yes, it's on the responsibility of the developer.
Okay.
The proposed site plan is in general conformance with the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval of the site plan for Culver's Indianola. Happy to take any questions. Also the developer, the engineers in attendance tonight too.
Question for you. So if I'm looking at that map right, I'm looking at Beacon, so is that that top yellow, that's connecting across 65 there to connect?
There's an, there's
Is
an
that what we're
exi-
saying right here?
yep, there's an existing crosswalk here. It'll connect
There's
with
an
that.
existing cross.
So they're just wanting to connect that crosswalk and then go
Right.
right there.
You said this, Bill, but how come we're vacating that section of sidewalk right there?
Right here. Topographical issues, some grading challenges, and then also a transformer.
Okay, thank you.
And council, if I may, to Councilmember Davis's point, I think one of the ancillary benefits of this project is this now has a good opportunity to connect the sidewalk to go across Jefferson, which means that entire neighborhood there now has much better connection to the Indianola Wellness Campus and some of the other amenities that are on the east side of Jefferson that this previously wouldn't have existed without the project.
So Bill, a couple of questions from one of the public comments tonight. Stormwater, that retention basin is what, one of the questions was, what storm level is it designed for? Is it designed for a 100-year storm, or is it designed for just a normal storm, or what's the, do you know?
5, right?
Well, it's designed for 100 year.
100 year.
It's at 5.
What's that?
It releases at 5, it'll hold 100.
Okay, thank you. So there is some stormwater requirement there.
Stormwater management plan was submitted by the engineer and has been reviewed by our city engineers.
Just trying to go through some of the things. I think there was a concern too about traffic. There's now a stop sign there at Rolling Vista and Hillcrest, is that correct?
Northbound, yes.
Yes.
There's, and Dave might be able to help with this, but I believe one of the stop signs we added, the only way there isn't a stop sign is coming from Hillcrest heading to the west. There should be stop signs both directions going to Hillcrest if you're coming from the south or the north. So the only way, if you're at those intersections to the west, traffic coming this way off Hillcrest doesn't have a stop, so it's a three-way stop on a kind of a Y corner. And then there is, of course, the traffic signal at the intersection of Jefferson and Hillcrest already. So there is good traffic control already in that area.
There is not a stop sign if you're coming off of the frontage road curling to the west.
Okay.
That was the concern, I believe.
Yeah. So maybe there needs to be a stop sign there. Is that something we can do or not do?
That is something that we can engage Snyder and Associates on to do an analysis for us to determine if a stop sign is merited, but Dave might have more information.
The frontage road is not a road, it's a private street.
Right.
Okay.
Essentially a driveway access.
All right.
And it's probably shared enough that it makes good sense to put a stop sign there, but it isn't a city street.
Right. Yeah, understanding that, the concern, I think, from the respondent to our public comment was that you're still gonna have traffic coming off that, and then you've got all kinds of mixed issues there. I'm just trying to walk through these things real quick here, so. Obviously, you've done drainage and stormwater and figured all that out, so you got that taken care of. I think, I just wanna make sure that we got those answered, so.
Well, I think it's a huge win that they're willing to put in that much sidewalk. I mean, that is going to connect a lot of homes, because if you look at, that sidewalk does not connect right now to anything.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think that's huge of them, and I mean, to be willing to do that.
A lot of collaboration between a lot of parties went into this to help make it work.
Yeah,
A lot of
that's what I
moving,
wanted to call out, like, I mean, that's amazing.
a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces,
Yeah.
a lot of meetings.
Good for you.
I have a question. There isn't currently a sidewalk that goes north, is that right?
Correct.
So it'll,
It's right away combined with a private residence. I kind of looked at it this morning. It's very steep. I'm not sure a sidewalk would ever go there.
Yeah, there's a drainage ditch or something there. Okay.
Challenging.
I just wanted to make sure I was remembering
Yeah, there's
that
there's no
right.
sidewalk going north.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I would take a motion to exit the public hearing. Motion and seconds, motion by Lane, second by Sones. Any further discussion?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go right ahead.
I know that council's already said this, but I also just want to make a point to reiterate it. We've got our developers here in the audience tonight. I just want to thank them publicly. They've been great partners in this process. You can see there's a lot of work that's gone into the site plan. As Bill mentioned, it's a very funky site, so I'll use that word again. There's a lot of challenges in this, and I really want to applaud the developers for their commitment to the site, their creativity, their willingness to work closely with Bryce and Bill and our staff. to ultimately bring something forward that needed, outside of that one variance, very little special consideration. So I think this is a really good feat and a really good accomplishment by a partnership between the developer and our staff to find something that works here, to be creative, and really, for all intents and purposes, follow the code as closely as possible, with the understanding there were significant challenges that were present.
It's such an awkward lot.
It is. There's a lot of excitement about Culver's coming, so.
I personally am excited about some cheese curds, guys. Just throwing that out there.
Well, let's get out of the public hearing and then we can make comments on the first consideration. So, any further comments on the issue at hand here? Hearing none, clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ray?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Motion carries. First consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 16505. I'm on the wrong one. Resolution approving the vacation and conveyance of city property and certain easements for the Culvers project. So moved. Got a motion by Ron, okay, by Ron, second by Lane. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Stones? Aye. Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye. Motion carries. We need to do, are we doing all four of these then? Okay, we need a resolution approving a sidewalk waiver request for Culvers project.
Second.
Got Mr. Dalby and Mrs. Solomons there. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye. Motion carries. Resolution approving a site plan for Culvers.
Second.
Motion by Davis, second by Lane.
Stones.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Stones?
Okay, well, I just want to make one comment on this, and this was the first, these are public hearings, and we had our first approvals here. We go into the meeting in August, there may be some folks here that want to talk about this, so just keep that in mind and understand that there was a vacant lot there and people built houses and it's been vacant for a long time and things may become a little difficult for some of them to like what's going on, so keep that in mind. Okay, now can I move on to the other one?
Yes.
Thank
Go
you.
back to 3. Thank you.
Public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Regarding an amendment, chapter 16505 zoning district regulations. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Moved.
Motion by Stones, second by Lane. Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Stones?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are in a public hearing. Bill, it's you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Community development staff has continued to review zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan for proposed amendments that we see necessary to help align the two documents, as well as help facilitate, growth and development. Elevate Indianola became the comp plan that was adopted on May 18, 2020. It's a document that's meant to help guide the future growth and development of the city. Within the comprehensive plan are different classes of future land uses. And when it comes to residential, there are 3 different classes. There's low-density residential, which is 2 to 5 dwelling units per acre. Low to medium-density residential, which is up to 15 dwelling units per acre, which is the subject of tonight's amendment. And then medium to high-density residential, up to 25 dwelling units per acre. A couple months ago, we were approached about a potential project, a townhome project. And so when we started to look at, to help sort of begin a cursory review of the project, we noticed a discrepancy in the comprehensive plan versus the zoning ordinance. Townhome townhomes fall within the low to medium density residential up to 15 dwelling units per acre. Our zoning ordinance only allows 10. So this code amendment really just proposes to align the two documents to allow 15 dwelling units per acre. The CED subcommittee was in favor of the proposed amendment, and then at their July 14th planning commission meeting, the commissioners recommended approval of the amendment with a 5-2 vote. One commissioner asked for statistics on existing townhome density residential projects, and then another one didn't really give a reason why. He just, and then, yeah, I don't really have anything else to present on, but this is the bulk regulations that we're proposing to amend. It's just amending the townhome or row home dwelling from 10 units per acre up to 15 dwelling units per acre to align with the city's comprehensive plan. Happy to take any questions.
The reason we can't do the opposite, match, instead of increasing 15, just match to 10.
That's one way of doing it, but that, like, townhome density is a little bit different than, apartment density. It's more row homes, townhomes. To get the 15 dwellings an acre, you need a lot of space anyway, and then combine that with private roads, detention, green space. You need a lot of space to reach that 15 dwelling units per acre. So I don't think it's a big change that it would make. But to your point, could do the opposite. We're just choosing this route instead. The comprehensive plan guides the growth, what the city has, what council, what planning commission has decided they wanted to see as a dwelling unit per acre. And then the zoning code, when it was adopted, didn't align. So we just want to align the two.
And just to add on to, Bill's absolutely right. To add on to that, we want to make sure that we're aligning with some of our peer communities. We put that data in staff memos today. We looked at some of those communities that have densities, and our housing needs study also calls out townhomes and how we need those type of things. And developers are looking to get a little bit more dense, and so we invested quite a bit of capital, I believe, when we did that comprehensive plan. And that company identified 15 dwelling units per acre, so there's a need here, and there's making sure that those align. Really, the simplicity thing of it could be as simple as just moving a line on a plot to capture it. So it's kind of more of a technical thing than anything, but I think really leaning into just consistency is what we're trying to do here.
Right, the reason I ask, because I look at it, obviously I don't know what you guys know. So I see it as like, okay, we were fitting 10 on an acre, now we want to fit 15, decreasing green space, right? So, or am I not understanding?
They would still be required to have 20% of green space on the site. The green space wouldn't be reduced. The standards aren't reduced just because the density goes up. They're still required to provide stormwater detention. They're still required to provide a certain amount of landscaping, green space, parking, things of that nature.
Okay.
Living in a neighborhood that has 3 townhome areas that have 15 per acre, there is no room for children to play. They play in the street. So I'm not in favor of going to 15.
Do you know what the square footage of a townhome would be if there was 15 on there per?
We don't have a minimum or maximum requirement for what the square footage of a townhome needs to be or can be.
So they can go up, right?
Right, you can have 3-story townhomes and then go six units.
Yeah. You can pull up East Lincoln as an example. See how they're packed in there. They basically have driveways and a little strip of green yard in between each townhome.
It would kind of be like the 92 ones, right?
Fourplex there?
Yeah. You like that? Yep. Pretty much walk your dog out to potty and go back inside. Okay.
And this doesn't control what the developers will build. This just gives them the option to do so.
Yeah.
And like Bill said, the 20%, you'll still have to be required to do that, along with all the other open space and landscaping requirements.
Which maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think developers think of, there's money, we'll build more, right? I mean, I'm sorry to be blunt, but I just, I don't think about kids having some space to play.
Yeah, and I'm not sure any townhome residentials have 15 dwelling units an acre because it's not permitted by the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Like schoolyard townhomes, for instance, is on 6 point something acres and it's 9.25 dwelling units per acre.
Okay.
And then to your point, I think you talked about the Kading homes.
No, she's talking about,
No, I'm talking about the ones that were built by Johansson. They're, I think there are 14 on less than an acre.
Not as a look, but the zoning ordinance only allows 10.
Well,
illegally.
it's different.
Bryce is like, "Ooh, red flag."
Yeah.
Well, it's different parcels, so that's probably how it got through, but when you look at it all together, it's 0.96 acres.
things to consider here, in my opinion. Council still has oversight, even when other plans come forward, number one. And number two, we have to kind of remember that a lot of folks don't like density, but yet there's folks that do like density. But from a property tax perspective, density is better in the long run than non-dense development, for the simple fact that you get more property developed for the tax dollars that are spent to put in the infrastructure. And so somewhere along the line, I would encourage all of you to go on a website called Urban3, URBAN with the number 3. Joe Manacuzzi runs a firm out of North Carolina that talks about density in cities and how important it is to consider density to a certain factor of for development of a city. And so you get more bang for your buck from doing it that way. But again, the first point is the most important. City still has, council still has oversight on that.
You're talking about Lincoln and 7th?
Yeah. Lincoln and, yeah.
You can also look at Kading. Same thing.
And I haven't looked at the properties yet, but those are the types of activities I'm hearing from developers. They want, again, these are just for townhomes. We want to build more townhomes. We want to get more middle income housing available options, things like that. This is one of those opportunities to do so.
And I would then take you to North Sixth Street, past Franklin. There's a number of townhomes along there too, but I don't know what the density of those townhomes are.
Those actually have yards.
Yeah. And there's no saying that you couldn't have yards in some of these cases either.
I missed, where's this one?
Melissa, I agree with you. That probably wasn't a very good development, to be honest with you, but I think we can control that in the future.
But if you're going to allow it, we're gonna have developers who wanna do it.
True. But then it's okay to say no too sometimes. If they don't have enough green space, they don't have enough things that you think are important.
Because like you said, we're keeping that, that's obviously in there, it's required, they have to have so much green space per, and that's per acre, right?
Or if it's 20% of the development size. So whether it's 10 acres or 15, you're still gonna have to get 20%.
Okay.
Of green space. Now, whether that be, like, one thing we wouldn't allow is the detention pond to be considered as green space.
Gotcha.
We
It's
want
actual green.
Right.
We want it to be green open space. Kids can play and things like that.
Not a pool for the kids, yeah.
Yes.
We don't need any drownings, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I just think it'd be hard to rein in a team.
Any other comments? Where we are here?
Well, I want growth, but I don't wanna lose trying to jam pack them in and look money hungry,
Is this impacted at all by the vote we took on the other property that Hubble proposed?
Oh, yeah.
Not directly. We were looking at that, the developer called me and said, hey, we're looking at doing a townhouse development, comprehensive plan says 15. And he started making plans, and then he, I said, well, actually, our zoning code says 10. He goes, well, why is there a difference? So I kind of went
That's a good question.
And I went into the discrepancy. So when I have developers looking at comprehensive plan that identify paths for how we want to grow as a community, it should align with those regulations of how we get there.
Sure. We said that, you had a comparable up there too, right? 8 peer communities, okay.
Yeah, they should be listed in.
Or list, I just, just,
Newton, Grimes, Waukee, Altoona, Pleasant Hill, Norwalk, Marshalltown, and us.
thank you.
Mayor, if I may, real quick, I
go ahead.
appreciate, again, all the discussion. I think it's always tricky because we're trying to look into a crystal ball. Full disclosure, I was a part of the committee that worked on the comprehensive plan when I was on planning and zoning. I'm fairly fond of what was created in the efforts. I think it is easy to always expect the worst out of developers. I would say the only counter argument I would make is one that the mayor brought up. Ultimately, we still have discretion at the end and the ability to control some of those amenities. We've done that several times through planning and zoning and city council on my, I think I sound old like Bob, but like my 15 years between planning and zoning and council, right? There's been numerous site plans that have been rejected and altered to, sorry, Bob, friendly fire, to not remake some of the mistakes of the past, right? Kading is kind of the low-hanging fruit, easy target that a lot of communities across the state use. They did pack a lot of units in there without much consideration. I think we have all gotten better at that and seen it. And, the other thing to remember too is that market and amenities do bear out what actually gets built. We're going through that potentially right now on Kentucky Ridge, and I don't know all the ins and outs of some of the switch, but we had a very dense community that was proposed there with minimal outside amenities, and ultimately that is proving to not be the path of development and what the market is demanding, and they're working on switching that back to commercial. And so I do think we have to be cautious and open-eyed when it comes to developer plans, but ultimately buyers in general, to some of the points made earlier, there is a segment of society that wants denser housing, and we are all generally a lot more keen and have learned from the mistakes of the past of what has to be included in those developments to make them ultimately successful. So you could go back and forth between 10 or 15. I like being aligned with the comprehensive plan until we redo it. But I think there's just a lot of lessons that have been learned over the years, and this still does not negate any of the open space requirements and site plan oversight that we all have.
I appreciate your comments, Josh, because you do this for a living, so I think I don't think it's expecting the worst. They're just doing their job, 5 more units is 5 more units. That's money in their pocket. I don't blame them. But I feel better knowing that we still have that control over what happens there, and that we're not, like you said, it's not having a pond that counts as green space. So I appreciate the open conversation on it.
Thank you.
I just want to throw out though, if we're going to deny something, we have to have good reason, as we found out through the Kading denial. We did in fact deny it, and it was challenged in court. We had good reason in that case, but you can't just deny something because you don't want it or you don't like the density of it.
No, and I think that's what I just mean. What I'm speaking to is like the minimum of open space. We're not, they come in, they say, oh, well, there's this here. Well, Bryce can have that conversation, Bryce and team, and they have that conversation with them. I have full belief in Bryce and team on that part of it.
We also have our parkland dedication ordinance now that would also contribute.
True.
Getting built in 2009, that wasn't in place.
Good point. Any other discussion here? We are still in a public hearing. If there's no further comments, I'd ask to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Lane, second by Melissa. Yeah, okay. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Jones?
Aye.
Lane?
Okay, first consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 16505 zoning district regulations. I take a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Lane, second by Davis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, no further discussion? Okay, we'll call the roll, please.
Councilmember Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
No.
Davis?
Aye.
Jones?
No.
Lane?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-2.
Thank you, council.
We're on to the parkland dedication amendment, chapter 171. We have a public hearing here. Need a motion and a second for a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Davis, second by Lane for a public hearing. Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye.
We are in a public hearing on parkland dedication. Okay, anytime.
I have to get my charger.
Wait.
No, go ahead.
So this is an item that council held and discussed a couple weeks ago as a discussion item. Nothing has changed since then, and now under council's direction, this is the public hearing for it. So amending parkland dedication ordinance after some developer feedback in the application and just to align with other communities. The proposal includes reducing acres per thousand resident requirement from 16 to 7. Originally, staff had suggested 6, but P&Z requested 7 acres, so staff is in support of that. The fee in lieu cost per acre, we're removing the mutually appointed appraiser language and having city council establish the average per acre fair market value. Based on peer community review, staff recommends setting that per acre value at 30,000. That's not established today. That's just kind of an FYI, but it will be established by a separate action after the third reading and adoption of the ordinance if council chooses to do so. And also, the amendment also includes updates in minimum park size and then the proximity to the development where funds may be used. Both Parks and Recreation Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the proposed amendment. City's legal counsel has reviewed and is in support of this amendment as well. On June 15th, 2026, council reviewed the proposed amendment as a discussion item, as I mentioned, and it was unanimously supported, and staff recommends approval.
Questions? Hearing none, clerk call the roll to close, or I need a motion to close the public.
So moved.
By Armstrong,
Second.
second by Davis. Clerk call the roll to close the public hearing.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Zones and.
Aye.
We like just jinxed the past two
Dalby?
times, so.
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Okay, get a motion for first consideration of the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
For a motion by Lane, second by Jones. Any further discussion? Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion direction regarding borrowing for IWC improvement project.
Staff has identified infrastructure repairs that are needed at the IWC. After that, council amended the urban renewal plan for Hillcrest TIF area to add this project back in March. And then council approved the first steps of the borrowing process in April. The rates and terms were solicited from local financial institutions for a $2.5 million loan that's taxable with a 5-year payback through the TIF revenue. We did get one bank that had favorable terms, so we want to know if council is okay with moving forward with that borrowing with resolutions on August 3rd. To recap, some of the projects are the HVAC system, that would be like the heat pump replacement, the communication upgrade for that, and rooftop units, pool repairs, competition, rebuild, repainting, vestibule mini split, light replacements in the pool areas, and then tile repairs and grouting, roof replacement, flooring in the studios and the weight room, and then compressors, pumps, clean outs, and other plumbing, mechanical, and electrical updates. and then the entry access system. And then Michael Maloney, I think, is online if you guys have any more detailed questions on.
I have a question. None of this has been done in the past, right? This is, I mean, kind of the old owners, kind of lack of upkeep. Would that be fair to state?
We are the owners. I mean, we've always have been, like we did Tuck Point.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, we did Tuck Point a few years ago. The city paid for that.
Okay.
Using the rent money that they had been paying.
Okay. So this is just all regular wear and tear. I mean, I know the HVAC is original, right?
Yes. So, yeah, I don't know if you or Doug can speak more on those things, but
that.
Minus several repairs that have been made.
Okay. Perfect, then that's actually really good for HVAC. Okay. Roof is original.
Is it typical to need to replace the roof this soon?
difficult to what?
Need to replace the roof this soon?
Yeah, is it like hail damage, like major?
It's just a big roof with holes. I mean, it lives in Iowa, unfortunately.
I didn't know, I'm, what, 13-ish years in?
It's a flat roof, right?
Yeah.
Part of it.
Flat roofs in Iowa are just
Yeah, if you don't do
bad
that,
idea.
don't upkeep maintenance on them, even at that, you're still limited to a number
We try to
laws.
fix holes here and there as they
You're gonna be limited to a
appear.
That helps, so that there is.
I just didn't know
Yeah.
what the life expectancy was of the roof, flat roof.
So if we get into all this, we find out things are not gonna last as long as we would like them to by any means.
Just curious.
If I may, I think if we've got Michael, it might be good for Michael to talk through the terms of the loan and kind of the solicitation that he did with local vendors or local mortgage companies or lenders, I should say. So Michael, if you want to talk through just kind of the rates, the market, and you know the offer that's kind of before us.
Yeah, sure thing. I think the main focus here would be both efficiency and flexibility. So because of the tax status on this portion versus some of the potential capital improvements that the city might look to do later this year, this need to be its own series regardless of how it was sold just from the tax status. So with that in mind, we look to how it would be repaid, and this would continue to be repaid by urban renewal TIF dollars. With that and maximizing flexibility, the ability on a bank loan versus a bond market issue to have these be redeemable at any time was highly valuable here. So not just apples to apples in terms of interest rates. The other part is this is a shorter borrowing, so just a 5-year amortization here, which does fit nicely with some flexibility inside the planned repayment for the consolidated downtown Hillcrest urban renewal area. And that's something we've looked at with staff. So a 5-year note here on a direct bank placement. You know, I think if we did this in the bond market, at the time we went out and solicited bids, we thought that might be around a 4.5% interest rate. But to go to the bond market would have some additional issuance costs that would not be associated with going with the bank loan here. That being said, a 5% rate is at the low end of what we've seen on the taxable standpoint. So we're happy to see that in place. So everything kind of aligned here. The 5% rate is favorable along with the flexibility to be able to call us at any time. Plus keeping it local with one of your local banks and True Bank as the low bidder here really makes this a favorable opportunity and why we wanted to bring it to council for review today.
Very.
I just asked Councilmember Davis if 5% was a good rate for this type of loan.
That's very good for that type right now. Like a good 1.5 below the lowest that we have, so.
Michael, I appreciate the fact you did what you could to keep it local too, or recommend that. Thank you.
And this continued participation from all your local banks, and I think that's important. We'll make sure that happens on any future bond issues as well. But when we can do this, it's great, and just good to get some bids.
Any other questions for Michael or discussion points with staff?
So correct me if I'm wrong. So as these come up, when we actually, everything is, are we just approving one big, then these will happen, or do we need to review every single one? Or like, are we obtaining bids for each item? Like how?
depending on how we do some of the projects, you guys might approve a bid, like for the roof, if we bid out that.
Okay.
But the actual borrowing, it's just one time.
But the bids, we might have, more information on repair issues, things like that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We would still have to follow all the procurement codes with our policy and as well as state law with, depending on the price points of the different items and the repairs that would be made.
So most of these, that's why I feel bad asking those questions, so we'll probably see more in the future on that, so, okay. Thank you.
You're still in the learning curve here.
Yeah. Still learning.
But those, we'll have the money when those things come forward.
Perfect.
What's your pleasure, folks? We can make a motion if you want.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So moved.
I'll make,
Go ahead.
second.
I didn't interrupt you that time.
Okay, motion by Lane, second by Sones to go ahead with the borrowing.
Yep, we'll bring the resolutions forward at the August 3rd meeting.
Okay, so go ahead and call the roll in, please.
Councilmember Ray,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Sones.
Aye.
Lane.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're into new business. Resolution authorizing contract with Tyler Technologies for MyGov transition subscription services.
Thank you. I will try to make this quick because, we've all been here for a while. So, Mayor, Council, Jason Holder, Innovation and Internal Services Director. What we're talking about tonight is absolutely a resolution to approve the Tyler Technologies software as a service package for replacement of the current geo permits package. It's more than just a replacement though, so I don't want to just call it a replacement one for one. We're not comparing actually two things. First thing about this slide is telling us that we did put this into our FY27 budget, so this is not a new cost of anything going forward. There is transitional costs, and then you can see the 3-year cost moving forward from there. One of the things that this investment provides for us is, as we looked for replacement for the geo permits, which was woefully inadequate for community and economic development, we also looked for, how could this also benefit the rest of the city? What are some of the other departments that could benefit from this? And when we went out and looked, we found that MyGov provided more than just a wholesale replacement for community and economic development issues, but it also provided public works components and IT components and facility management components. Some of the things that we're talking about, even like the thing you just approved with the wellness campus, a lot of that stuff will be able to be dumped into here, so that we'll be able to have a better track of those ongoing maintenance trends and stuff like that, so that over time, using this type of platform, we'll be able to keep better track of those concerns. So, just looking at the list of the different things that it does is it provides more permitting. We'll be able to have our citizens and contractors and developers go right online. They'll be able to track their permits and developments through a process without having to call or go back. Also providing electronic plan review using a combination of reducing the cost of our Bluebeam licenses and also the electronic plan review will give the ability for our developers to be able to go in and actually see electronically how their plans are moving through, and they'll be able to comment on them electronically, so that drastically reduces the amount of staff time going back and forth of getting these PDFs in the email or in the mail and dealing with those. It provides a way for residents to report concerns, potholes, things like that. And when a resident reports a concern, that automatically generates a workflow. So it generates a workflow that starts for somebody like Caleb to go, oh shoot, I see I got a pothole concern. Now he gets it and he can comment on it. And then that can also branch into many different departments, so they'll be able to follow it through. Again, like the asset and work order management, perfect example would be something like the wellness campus. When we do replace those air conditioners, we can put those in there and we can develop a plan to keep them in. We keep track of all that in one place. And lastly, since this is the same company that we're currently using for our East Enterprise Resource Planning software, or ERP, all the fees and all the things integrate in there well, so that we have just one platform and don't have to keep going back and forth and exporting and re-entering information. Once again, a comparison of our current geo permits today. No real public access or portals MyGov's give us that plan review we talked about already, report of concern, assets, and then of the financial records. All those things are available in MyGov. None of them are available in our current plan. So staff is recommending the approval. Once again, there's a $20,000 one-time fee to build everything, because, you know, these things don't just build themselves. That's through Tyler. The annual $37,258, that is also offset by the first 3 years of the commitment by IMU to give us $1,000 a year for that. They're actually getting a deal because they won't have to maintain their Blue Beam licenses at $3,500 a year. So I tried to get Chris to give us a little more money, but I was happy with the $3,000. So we're hoping that this will kick this off in October and have a go-live date of January 2027. We did pay for a full year of geopermit, so we will have quite a bit of overlap time so that we can get all of that stuff worked through. I'm happy to take any questions.
Tyler took a lot of staff time. Are you anticipating the same being true here?
This will take some staff time, but not nearly as much as the ERP transition did, because this is really building from the ground up. We're not taking a whole platform that we did with Cassell and bringing it over. We're basically just taking their package as is and building right on it. So I would like to give you 1,000% guarantee that it won't, but we believe that it'll be a lot less amount of time. And there's a lot more integration, and we're going with a lot more out-of-the-box products with moving forward on this one.
And Mayor, if I may add one thing to that, I think the benefit of this platform with Tyler is that we'll be able to spread the work out a little bit more too. With the financial side, it was really heavy lift by Jackie and Cordy predominantly, but in this one, we'll have some work that'll be done in Bryce's office by multiple individuals. We'll have some work done on the public works side, some work done on Jason's side, so we will be able to spread that work out over a few more individuals as well.
Well, just the fact that we're not taking an existing program and trying to meld it into the current new program is a significant difference as well.
So there's no data that's going to be uploaded?
We will be exporting what we can out of geopermits and bringing it in. And Tyler, that's part of that $20,000, they'll be doing that conversion for us. But for the most part, it's a lot of just new data that we'll be developing from. Also, this does have a GPS component in it as well, but we're not going to abandon our ESRI commitment that we did. But the nice thing is they will work together in tandem with each other.
So there will be testing to be done?
Yes, we will.
On our side?
Yes, exactly. There will be some testing to be done, and then there'll be a lot of build time. What's really fantastic is that we will have that extra time because of having geopermits still in place until the end of this fiscal year. We would like to be fully implemented in January, but we'll have a lot of time, and that's actually a pretty generous amount of time. They can usually deploy this in about 3 months, but they're giving us a little more time.
Are they going to be responsible for building our user test cases?
They have a lot of pre-built templates and things like that we will be adopting into this system, and we'll work with community development and everybody to just test it. I don't know if we're going to have necessarily outside people testing it, but we will do a fair amount of testing before we move forward.
Geopermits is garbage.
Geopermits is.
Yes, it is.
Doesn't quite meet our needs.
There's garbage is being nice.
Just don't hold back, Ron.
If you ever try to use it, you would.
It's horrible.
But I see it's budgeted in the 2027 budget.
Yes.
Hopefully it's way better than geopermits, so.
Can't be any worse.
We actually did a lot of diligence with, we went out and found other cities that used it and found a very positive feedback from the other communities that use it. From smaller communities than us, use multiple pieces of it to big, large cities as well. And then Kansas City and a few others. What's that?
I think Austin.
Austin, which is kind of big.
Yeah. Texas.
Any further questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, motion in a second. So moved. Motion a second, motion by Dalby, second by Davis. Any further? Okay.
You're gonna give her a complex, you know.
I'm sorry, Melissa, my apologies.
You can switch me with Josh. Maybe that would be less confusing.
Well, maybe my hearing aids on the left side here isn't quite right. You sound the same. Okay, I apologize.
Maybe we just need to say our names.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Davis? Aye. Stones?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Rabe?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are under the city manager's report.
Yes, a few items. The library conceptual design open house drew over 100 attendees and generated positive, productive discussions. Staff are reviewing all the submitted comments to prepare a summary report and identify key trends, and also completing an updated debt capacity analysis in partnership with our financial advisor, Michael Maloney. These materials will be developed and presented to the City Facilities and Property Subcommittee, followed by discussion with the full City Council to determine next steps on the library project. The report, the conceptual design report, is currently available on the city's website. If anyone at home was unable to attend either the City Council study session or the public open house, I would certainly encourage those folks to review the report, look at the different options, the cost estimates, and then share any of the feedback that they have with city and library leadership. The joint fuel tank facility, we completed the fuel tank removal this past week, and the site has been restored. Thank you to Unified, who was our contractor, as well as Caleb and his team for who helped with some of that. As far as we know, we did not find any underground surprises. It was backfilled without issue, so hopefully saving a little bit of the contingency funds that we put in there for underground contingencies that, to the best of my knowledge, did not come to fruition. The North Howard sale, we are currently in the process of receiving submissions for broker qualifications for the sale of the North Howard or Regions Bank Building. Those qualifications are due to be submitted this week on July 22nd. Staff will review those submissions. Once received, we will bring those forward to the city's facility and property subcommittee for their input, and from there we will bring it on to the city council for consideration and entering an agreement with an appropriate broker to continue the sale of the North Howard building. The library property reacquisition. The city of Indianola and Warren County have agreed on a certified appraiser to conduct an appraisal of the existing library property. The appraisal began last week and is expected to be completed within the next 4 to 6 weeks. In addition, a resolution of intent affirming the city of Indianola and Warren County's interest in collaborating and working in good faith on the city's potential reacquisition of the library property will be presented at the August 3rd City Council meeting for consideration. The city and county have also agreed to reconvene once the appraisal is completed. End of report.
Any discussion, action items regarding future agenda? Hearing none, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Davis, second by Mr. Lane. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, Josh, for hanging with us.
Thanks, John.
Enjoy your evening,